or the vehicle will be reported stolen. And that contract will validate that she didn't return it in time. And according to the contract that she signed, it is considered stolen after midnight tonight kind of thing. Go get my car. And they'll go get it. Um, to some degree, they'll go get it, but the car will be considered stolen. um, um, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in that contract. But if you start at the moving in part and y'all are living together for 2 or 3 years before y'all get married and y'all have that kind of contract together, every time a big financial decision changes, like somebody loses their job, somebody gets a raise or a promotion, there's a large quantity of money that enters into the relationship after the first contract happens. There's a reassessment of assets. You are already in the phase of developing a prenup, and in that particular phase, you would then be able to transition into the fiance phase. Who's paying for the wedding? Who's contributing what to the wedding? The and then switch that into the marriage phase, and that's how you slide the prenup into the door. Because if you're already in a relationship where every 30 to 90 days you're reassessing your dating contract, then when you get to the fiance part, you have the fiance contract. And then when you switch over to the marriage part, you have the marriage contract prenup. If you're doing it from the beginning, it is less uncomfortable for the woman. If there's been a free reign, you can do whatever you want, whatever you like, all of the time, everything's on me behavior. And then you get to a prenup scenario, you're changing the entire relationship. And she's gonna be defensive about it. Men are gonna feel justified, but she's gonna be defensive about it. She's gonna be offended by it. And men are going to say that that's unrational for her, that she should agree to the prenup. But I mean, fellas, you're supposed to be dating a girl that's willing to sign the contract before you get the marriage anyway. So you're supposed to know on date 10, when she's willing to commit to you, that she will sign a financial binding contract that would prevent her from having unilateral access to all of your assets. She's not willing to sign that girlfriend contract. She's not going to make it to the prenup. You know, we didn't think about that before, we started talking about this on the show. So today we're going to be going over some other things about how you guys can become better and successful as a couple. But I just thought that this was a phenomenal thing that men should start really taking the time to look at and getting involved in, because and I'm going to have to produce me a squeeze page for this, because this is going to be this whole podcast is going to end up turning into a whole secondary website on top of the YouTube podcasting channel that's going to have all of the PDF files and everything that we be talking about on here, access to the URLs to all of the books that we be telling y'all about, that will give y'all the ability to grab the things that y'all need to grab so that y'all can be successful in life. But at least we can give you guys ideas of how to look it up and do something yourself. Now, I'm not going to give you any like actual legal advice, but what I am going to do is I'm going to give you some heads ups that you guys can take with you. And if you are interested in that girlfriend contract, we can message one another after the show in the membership and collect your email, and then I can drop one into your email, and then you'll be able to see what's going on from the membership, and you'd be like, oh, dip. And you can edit it, take it to your lawyer, verify it, and they will put any finishing touches on it to make it more ironclad for you for a legal situation. And that would be the blueprint style relationship contract that you would utilize when you're talking to females, especially when you start dealing with your assets and you actually being a man of financial value. Because when you're a man of ethical value and a man of moral value, nobody gives a shit about you. When you're a man of financial value, that's when everybody's fawning all over you, and that's when you have to protect your assets. So while you're building yourself up to a financially valuable man, you need to be able to start preparing yourself for that financial protection, and that's why I wanted to talk about that real quick. But when we think about it, for way too many couples, money isn't about building a life together. It is a constant source of stress. And you're both working your tails off, but you feel stuck in survival mode, just trying to claw your way to the next paycheck. You're lucky if you guys have alternating paychecks where every week you guys got money coming in your relationship, even though both of you are getting paid bi-weekly. But it's like you're on a treadmill, running as fast as you can just to stay in the same financial place on a regular basis. Yeah, your standard of living goes up a little bit with your increase, but you're increasing your incomes, but you're still always putting in that extra 15 hours of overtime every week to make sure that you stay stable, right? Can't get sick, can't take an extra day off, because if you do, you don't have enough money to cover the spread. And this tension creates two roles: the spender and the saver. And it's not necessarily the same person in every relationship. Sometimes the spender is the man and the saver is the female. Sometimes the spender is the female and the saver is the man. More often than not in society, we expect the saver to be the man and the spender to be the woman, because the man has to save up his money to buy the woman the things that she wants: expensive cars, expensive jewelry, vacations, and stuff to that effect. But then also the engagement ring, the wedding, is typically set to be the man's job to pay for. Even though it's supposed to be 50-50, it's 50-50 until the guy is putting up 100 grand for the wedding. And if he's putting up 10 grand for a ring and 100 grand for a wedding, that's 110 grand. And she hasn't put up 110 grand out the relationship. So it's still not 50-50. But that's neither here nor there. One of you are going to feel a spike of anxiety every time the other person pulls out a credit card. The other person is going to feel controlled and suffocated, like they can't even grab a cup of coffee without getting that weird look from you. And these aren't just disagreements. They're the same draining late night fights over and over and over again. The silence and stress around money can become a single most destructive habit in your relationship, way worse than cheating. And this isn't just about the numbers in your bank account, it's about what those numbers are doing to your partnership. It's that feeling of drowning, of being one unexpected car repair away from a total catastrophe, where you see other people getting ahead, buying homes, going on vacations, and you're left wondering, what are we doing wrong? And why can't we get it together? There's two of us, especially if somebody else is getting it done by their lonesome. And there's two of us here. Why do we not get it together? Here's the truth. It's really, you're not gonna like it, but here's the truth. And most financial advice wasn't made for you guys. It's designed for people with stable, predictable incomes and a lot of breathing room. And I know that we have seen, I've covered these budgeting tips. For example, they tell you to follow the 50-30-20 rule. But what happens when 90% of your income is already eaten up by necessities? And God forbid, you're calling luxuries necessities and 90% of your income is gone. 50-30-20 typically requires 50% of your income to be your necessities. 30% can be either paying off debt or budgeting for savings. 20% can be expendables or charitable donations. 50-30-20 can be split up in a lot of ways. 50-30-20 can be split up in a way where 30% is your bare necessities, 50% is going into investments, and 20% is paying off bad debt, or 10% is paying off bad debt, and another 10% is being donated to your local church or other charities. But if 90% of your money is gone after you cover all of the bills, you only got 10% left. That model doesn't work for you. We've got 80-20 platforms. that model's not going to work for you because you've only got 10% left. You know, there are a lot of different models that we've covered. So when they say to automate your savings, what about the month that your income drops and that automatic transfer triggers an overdraft fee, sending you spiraling into debt? Just like those individuals that are working for the government and they're about to spend 2 or 3 more weeks with no income coming in, 2 or 3 more paychecks with no income coming in again. So if you're ready for a plan that's actually designed for when money is tight, then tonight, this is for you. We're going to show you how to go from just getting by to finally getting ahead. And this isn't about perfect spreadsheets or cutting out the lattes, because we've covered all of those already. This is a ruthless, practical plan to stop the financial bleeding, build a stable foundation, and finally start working as a team. So we're going to show you how to take back control together, not take control from one another. The survival mode problem is something that we're going to conquer. So let's be brutally honest about what survival mode really feels like. It's a state of constant low-grade panic. It's that knot in your stomach when you swipe your card, just hoping it doesn't get declined. It's checking your bank account multiple times a day, as if staring at the numbers will make them go up. It's the shame and scarcity, secrecy, where one of you might be hiding a credit card bill because you're too scared to admit that you overspent on the budget. Not necessarily overdrafting the card or overspending on the limit, but buying an extra thing that you guys didn't agree on. This financial anxiety seeps into every corner of your life, and it can turn partners into opponents. Instead of a team working towards a shared future, you become the spender versus the saver, the dreamer versus the realist. And in some situations, the dependent versus the provider. Every dollar becomes a potential conflict. One person feels like they have to be the bad cop, shutting down every request, from a small takeout order to a much needed new pair of shoes. The other person feels unheard and restricted, like their hard work isn't buying them any quality of life. This cycle is exhausting, and it keeps you trapped when you're constantly putting out so many financial fires. We're paying a late night fee here and there, covering overdrafts here and there, picking up the slack when there isn't enough money to cover the bills so that it can get done on time. You have no time, no energy, no money left to build anything else. You can't think about a down payment when you're worried about keeping the lights on. You can't dream about retirement when you're wondering how you're going to afford groceries next week. And the biggest mistake isn't overspending. It's when one person carries all the financial weight while the other completely checks out. This creates an imbalance of power and knowledge that is incredibly dangerous for the relationship. If an emergency hits, a job loss, an illness, car crash, the partner who was kept in the dark is left completely vulnerable at the worst possible moment. In those situations, and it doesn't matter who it is, because you could be in a relationship where the woman handles the money and the man just brings the money home, and then shit hits the fan and then she has to tell him that there isn't enough money to go around when bills are due. It could be the other way around, where he handles all the money because he works and it's his money. He does everything and she's at the house doing what she does. And then one day he has to come back and tell her that he hasn't been paying the mortgage for the last 2 years or the last 2 months. You know what I mean? And she didn't know what was going on. In both scenarios, the person who didn't know what was going on could not think about how they could contribute to resolving the situation because they were not informed. Two people are involved in the same scenario and both of them could have brainstormed for a solution. The one person that's not focused on the situation, that wasn't informed that there was a problem, is the one person that could have come up with an extra idea. If they would have had a connection or a source, if she could have called her mom or dad and got a little bit of money to borrow the front for a little bit, or if he could have got some money from one of his homeboys or his cousin and borrowed a little bit of money to front to cover the spread, if they're left in the dark, they can't help. Breaking this cycle requires a radical shift. You have to stop trying to use financial plans built for a life that you don't have. I know a lot of people try to make them seem like they're the smartest people on earth because they're Republicans when they have a Democratic financial status. I'm not knocking your political beliefs, but I'm telling you that Republicans perform better for financially wealthy people and businesses. Democrats perform better for financially stagnant people, people that make less than $100,000 a year, actually people that make less than $250,000 a year. So if you want food stamps and you vote Republican, that's not going to benefit your household. You know, you just got to think about, matter of fact, right now, if you know somebody that is about to be deported, voting Democrat is not going to help you because the Democrats are trying to put body cameras on them so that they're not killing your neighbors. Just trying to tell you, you got to really think about this. Forget about perfection. It's time to get on the same page and fight the same problem together, not fight each other. The ruthlessly prioritized solution that you have to have is not some complicated budget where you'll ditch that plan in 3 weeks. It's a ruthlessly prioritized 3-step framework made specifically for couples with tight or unpredictable cash flows. Bartenders, shot girls, exotic dancers, commission only used car dealerships, door-to-door Avon lady, life insurance specialists, anybody that operates off of exclusively making that sale and getting paid that commission. This is about y'all. And this is going to be about taking powerful actions that make the biggest differences right now and gives you more comfort and freedom going forward. Now, this plan has 3 core steps, and you have to do them in order. No skipping ahead. Each one is built on the last one. So creating a foundation that will finally let you get ahead is going to be the ultimate end goal. So if you spend a little bit of time lingering on one of those steps, that's fine. Master your foundation first. And then after you've mastered your foundation, then put forth the actions and the efforts into getting to build on that foundation. When contractors build a house, they put that slab of concrete down, smooth it all nice and smooth, and just let it sit there until it hardens. They don't put the first wall up until they're guaranteed that the foundation is not going to crack. Then they start building the walls. They don't put the roof on until all the walls are secure. They don't put the doors on till after they have put the roof on. You understand? So you've got to do it in a specific order. Because if you put the roof on before you put up the walls, you still got to move the roof. Double work. So you want to do each one of these in order. First step that you want to pay attention to is the financial triage budget. And we're forgetting everything that you know about the traditional budgeting model. And this is going to be about identifying the absolute bare minimum that you need to survive, which is the same steps that I was telling y'all when y'all were going into your shutdown budget. So you should have a lot of this information calculated if you've been following the show. But we're going to create a system to manage your money without blame and plug the financial leaks that are sinking your ship. And this means creating two budgets. And that's not what we did last time. The first budget is a survival budget for lean months, which is what we talked to you about before. And then the other one is a full budget for the good months. That's an extra additive. Now, step number 2 is going to be the stability fund sprint. The standard advice is to save 3 to 6 months of expenses. I would say leaning more towards 9 to 18 months, because you really want to be able to deal with a year's worth of, I can't believe this bullshit is still happening, and be able to find other ways to bring more money in. Because the first month and a half of you going through it, you're probably going to rest because you've been working on burnout mode for a number of years, if not a number of decades. But the next 3 months, you're going to be trying to find another way to make money. And it might take you 6 months to get you a second job or a third job or a backup plan, that if you're not trying to turn some side hustles into some side gigs, that's going to really start paying you some primary capital. So safe side is 3 to 6 months. Prepared side is 9 to 18 months. So you want to save to this level of expenses. And I know that it feels impossible when you're starting from zero. So we're not going to do that just yet. Instead, you're going to go on a focused sprint to build a small, achievable starter emergency fund. And that's going to be a stability fund. And this isn't a full safety net, but it is a financial shock absorber. And we're talking about a goal of like $500 or $1,000 that can stop a small emergency from becoming a debt crisis. Michael says best advice about debt is to avoid it if possible. Well, I know that on paper that makes sense, but Michael, in all honesty, you can't avoid debt. What you can avoid is unnecessary spending. Because when you talk about debt, you talk about everything that is able to be bought. When other people think about debt, they think about car loans, they think about mortgage, they think about debt consolidation loans, stuff like that. When they think about debt, medical bills, SBA loans, they think about big stuff. But you have to understand that debt occurs when you go to the grocery store and buy filet mignon instead of buying ground beef. Debt occurs when you upgraded your cell phone to the new iPhone 16 when your old cell phone still worked just fine. You're building debt when you bought new rims for your car and paid for a lift kit and everything else for your car. You're buying debt when you bought your third Coach purse this month. You're buying debt when you're buying the Chanel line because of that new Chanel song that came out with the girl that's shaking her booty with water on it. That's where your debt is actually coming from. Not just your Netflix subscription, not just your gym membership. Debt is built from unnecessary spending. Debt is built from things like taking the toll roads instead of taking the non-toll roads and spending an extra 5 minutes getting to your destination. You know, people think about debt as unpaid debt. Don't build up unpaid debt if you can avoid it. But avoiding paid debt, that's one of the things that people don't pay attention to. Don't generate payable debt if you can avoid it. But not a lot of people know how to spend responsibly, so they don't actually avoid that payable debt. Michael says book for the night is The Total Money Makeover by David Ramsey. Second book by David Ramsey. Proven Plan for Financial Fitness. I'm going to have to start writing some books. Detroit, Michigan in the house. Special shout out to Nicole. Look, I got my game changers in here. We got Michael, Stephen, and Nicole. So we need Claudia to come back and Cardinal Rules to dive in, and we have semi-full house. Now, the debt demolition is going to be step 3. Once you have a cash flow system and a small emergency buffer, and only then, after you've accomplished that, then do we turn our attention to the debt. High interest debt is like a parasite, eating your income and holding you back. So we'll pick a simple, powerful strategy, either the debt snowball or the debt avalanche, and attack your debt with focused cash flow that you've now created. Now, the difference between the debt snowball and the debt avalanche, the debt snowball would be paying off the smaller debt first. So if you got $200 credit cards, $500 credit cards, you pay those off, and the larger credit cards you pay the minimum balance on, and that frees up more credit from the bottom up. The avalanche is when you pay the minimum balance on the smaller credit cards, and then you overpay on the higher credit cards, the ones with the higher balances with the higher interest rates, and pay those down faster, causing you to have lower interest rates, because the cards with the lowest interest rates are not going to impact you as much, which means you're going to have more money to go around, which means you're able to tackle that debt. He said that's one of the books I have on the shelf. And if you're able to take that extra money that you're not wasting on discretionary entertainment and you redirect it towards tackling that debt, you can pay that debt down to a magnitude where you're financially satisfied. Now, this 3-step plan is going to be your way out of the survival mode. It's practical, it's actionable, and it is designed to be done as a team. So let's get into how we're going to do this as a team. Step 1 is going to be that financial triage budget. This is going to be the most critical step. Getting this right, everything else becomes so much easier. So pay off the ones that is calling all the time. Peace of mind knowing there is one less person harassing you both ways work. I agree that paying off the ones that's calling you all the time is always good. If we're starting from people who are not making on-time credit card payments, you want to pay all the late payments first. If we're talking about people who are starting with credit cards that are overdrafted or overdrawn, where you have exceeded the limit, you want to start with the ones that are in the worst condition. So if you're over the limit, you want to pay those down and get them under the limit. If you're late, you want to start paying those on time. I told you guys before about adjusting your payment due date. When you are in good standings with your credit card company, if you've never adjusted your billing date, after you get back into good standings with your credit card company, you can call them up and say, hey, my billing cycle changed, my payday changed, and I need you to move this billing date to X, Y, and Z billing date a week or 2 weeks later in the same month. So if your credit cards are hitting you on the 1st and the 15th, you want to move them to the 27th or the 28th, they'll move it as far back to the 28th as possible. And that'll give you extra time before the next time you got to pay the bill. And because it's going to move the whole billing cycle 30 days or 45 days. And that'll give you extra time so that you don't have to pay that bill so quickly. Likewise, if you're stacking your credit cards, where some credit cards are, I would put it 5 days after your first paycheck in the month, and then some credit cards are 5 days after your second paycheck in the month. You are guaranteed to have money clear to bank in time for you to make a payment on a credit card in time for it to roll over with a lower balance, which if you're paying the credit card down before the billing cycle closes, then you're going to have less interest rates, because while it is important to pay the balance due after the billing cycle rolls over before the billing due date, it is more beneficial to you to pay it down before the billing cycle rolls over and not have all that interest to pay before the billing due date. Nicole says 670 credit score with no history of payments. So they still look at me like a financial risk because you don't have any payment history. In order for you to fix that, if you've got a 670 credit score and you have secured credit cards or unsecured credit cards, you would have to use the credit card to put gas in your car and then leave $1 on the billing statement. Let the statement roll over and then pay that $1. Doesn't matter what it is. You can put gas in your car, you can pay a light bill, you can pay a cable bill or whatever you're going to pay for, but don't pay the whole bill off. You want to bring it down to $1, $1.50, something like that. Let the billing cycle roll over and then put the money on the bill. And that will start showing you a payment history. When you start making payments, on-time payments increase your credit score. Your 670, you are not quite there. You need like 16 to 18 more points. Technically, good credit starts at 720. Fair credit is at 680. You are below 680, you are high risk. When you are below 600, you are not trustable. So 640 and 650, they'll tolerate, especially when the market is good. 580, they don't really trust that often, but in some cities where the market is hard, they will allow 580 and 500 because they're not making any sales. But if they're making sales, if they're closing deals, if they're locking it in, you better have you a 640 or 650. So 670 is better than most. However, 710 or 715 is what you want to aim for. 720, 725 is phenomenal. And if you can get there, you want to kind of stay there or get higher. But to get from 670 to 720, one of the things you're going to have to do is use each one of the credit cards you have, leave $1 on each one of those credit cards, and then pay that $1 off on each one of those credit cards so that you don't have to deal with the no payment history. The longer your payment history, the better your credit score is going to be. They have started with the FICO scores that Donald Trump just put in, where if you're paying your rent, light, gas, and water through funding sources that you report to the 3 major credit agencies, that can positively impact your credit score in some situations. If you do not have installment loans, while nobody wants to collect debt, installment loans does help. A simple $5,000 line of credit or $5,000 loan that you use to subsidize or supplement your debt, consolidate your debt. You take that $5,000, spread it across like 18 months or whatever, and just pay off a bunch of bills. Making those payments on that $5,000 loan, anything over 8 months will look good on your credit score, being able to pay off those installment loans. So revolving credit is credit cards, and that will improve your credit score. And you can get them easier with less negative hits by doing secured credit cards. A little extra money here and there, $500 or $1,000, $2,500 secured credit card. If it hits you, it'll hit you at 1 point, and they won't deny you because you got 670. But if you're trying to get an unsecured credit card, you're likely do better by running into that with a um a 680 or 700 to try and grab some of those higher unsecured credit cards. But with a 670, you can get a gas card from Shell or Chevron, Exxon Mobil. They got those little gas cards you can use, $250 to $500. They can qualify you for those. If you've never used those before, you can get a credit card from Firestone, um, which helps you with car repair. And if you don't really, those are the ones where if you don't really need them, you don't use them. But I mean, if you get your oil change, um, you use that first, leave $1 on a card, let the billing cycle roll over, then pay it. These are the things that you can use to benefit you in your day-to-day operations and be fiscally responsible purchases instead of getting like a Costco card or um, a line of credit in a clothing store doesn't help you at all. Getting a line of credit in a mechanic shop, that helps you a lot. That fix your car when your car starts getting messed up. So these are the things that you can do to kind of build your credit score up some to help you get closer to 700, 720. One of the other things that's going to hurt you with your credit score, because while you got a 670, you have no payment history. You also have a significant quantity of unpaid debt, even if it is in good standings. Potentially student loans, car notes, mortgage, something to that effect, somewhere along the line. Even if you are tied to somebody else's line of credit and they've got bad credit cards in their name, that's not your responsibility, but you can't get it off of your credit score right now. The fact is that um, somewhere on your credit score, for you to have a 670, you've got some debt that needs to be removed off of your credit score. You can dispute some things, but other things you just got to pay it off. And once you get that off your credit score, or it ages off of your credit score, if it got charged off, once it ages off of your credit score, 7 years after it got charged off, your credit score automatically starts going up. So when we start talking about our 20-year plan, 7 years of recovery is fixing your credit score. Once you fix that, you will find yourself with less issues with getting capital, and you'll find yourself with less issues with expanding on your capital. So you got to fix your money and then not mess up. So spending money on other people's stupidity is going to contradict your success. Michael says leaving a small balance, often referring to as the $2 rule or all zero except one rule method. I have not covered those two methods, but I think I just kind of talked about them accidentally. But that's actually a good idea. I'm talking about the all except one method, which is paying it all the way down to $1. But I'm guessing the $2 rule is like more than $1 but less than $2 kind of thing, or not more than $2. You leave it on the card and then pay it off after the billing cycle rolls over. And I literally tell you, like a day or two after the billing cycle rolls over, pay it off. That way you don't forget. Doesn't matter when it's due, as long as it's paid before it's due. So if the billing cycle rolls over on the 16th, it doesn't matter if it's supposed to be paid by the 28th. On the 19th, you pay it. Soon as you remember, oh snap, my credit card just rolled over. Let me put that last $2 on the card, and now I'm good. Because otherwise, you'll forget. You'll forget, or worse, you will spend that $2 on a soda at the grocery store, and then you don't got the $2. So before anything happens, put the $2 on the credit card, and then buy the soda with the credit card. That way you good. Now, the financial triage is all about brutal honesty and ruthless priorities. So you want to forget the 50, 30, 20 rule for right now. We can get there once you have reduced your debt a little bit. When your income is low or unpredictable, those percentages don't work for you. So our goal here is going to be some clarity, control, and communication. So first, you have to track everything for the last 30 days. If you haven't already done so, when I gave you this advice with planning for the shutdown, for both shutdowns, you and your partner need to see where everything is going. You want to use a notebook, you can use an Excel spreadsheet, QuickBooks, whatever you want to do. They got spreadsheet apps out there. I don't care how you do it. You want to put it somewhere where you guys can see it. Get this done. And truthfully, when you're talking to a new dating partner about money, whenever y'all get to that point in a relationship, instead of asking them like how much do they make in a year and what kind of job do they have and how much does that job pay, ask them a more detailed and structuralized question. Do you have a financial spreadsheet for your budget? I don't give a fuck how much you make. Do you keep track of your own money? Most men are going to stop and look like, oh shit, she's she's organized. So instead of what's your name and how much money do you make, it is what's your name and do you keep a financial spreadsheet for your budget, for your income? Do you track your own assets? Right? You got to pull up bank statements, pay stubs. This isn't about judging each other. This is all about gathering the data because you need to see in black and white where your money is coming from and where the money is going. And this is going to be how you find the leaks. That $15 a month subscription that you forgot about, the daily coffee that adds up to over $100, the impulse buys online, the free trials that you forgot that turned into monthly services. Yeah. And some of those, you can contact the people and get all of your money back. Because if they put you on you went to a free trial, they hit you with the free trial, they've been charging you all this time, you've never logged in once, you call them and cancel, tell them you didn't know that this was going on and you want your money back, they can look at the account and show that you've never used the service once. They're likely to give you the majority of your money back, if not all of it. So you might be able to make up for the last 3 payments that they took from you because you forgot to cancel the platform when it first started. What I do is pay more than the balance. Then the credit card company writes me out a check. Now, that does work with some credit cards. However, overpaying your credit card can be perceived on your credit score as financial irresponsibility, equivalently to overcharging your credit card. There are also some credit cards that prohibit overpayment because overpayment is considered financial irresponsibility because you're supposed to pay what you asked for when you spent the card. So that is a good way to go. If you're mailing a check to the credit card company or mailing a money order to the credit card company, they have to take the money, process it, and send you back the difference. And by the time they process it, if you charge a certain quantity of money on the card, it might break even on the card. But deliberately overpaying your credit card is not going to improve your credit score. However, not having a balance on your credit card above $2 when the billing cycle rolls over will look good on your credit score. And since it's just $2, you know what I mean? The fact that it ended at $2 and it got paid, that's all that matters. And sometimes you can slip and charge the wrong card and it's like $20 at the end of the billing cycle, but you paid it. Doesn't matter. It shows that you're making payments every month. But having 15 or 20 different credit cards with a zero balance that you never use is not helping your credit score as much as having a monthly payment on those 10 or 20 credit cards. Now, once you have a month's worth of data, sometimes you might have 2 or 3 months worth of data because y'all might get excited about this and start really going through some shit, especially if each month looks different. It's time to create your daily budget. This is going to be a dual budget though. And this is a game-changing concept for anyone with a variable income. And that's why I said you might do 3 months, you might do 6 months. Because if quarter 1 and quarter 2, your money is lower than what it is in quarter 3 and quarter 4, you might have to look at October, November, December, and January, February, and March and look at how your money changed. Okay? Your survival budget is going to come first. This isn't just your needs. This is your keep the lights on and a roof over your head kind of budget. So list only the absolute essentials and whatever they cost. house, rent, mortgage, basic utilities, electric, water, and gas, groceries, which is realistic, bare bones food, not your dream meals, not steak and lobster. Well, if you're doing ramen noodles and rice with Pringles soup or whatever, you want to bare minimum get your transportation, gas to get to and from work exclusively, bring the kids to and from school exclusively, not joyriding to the club, not hanging out with your homeboys, not block burning and road trips, specific bare necessities, public transportation passes, stuff to that effect, minimum debt payments on all debt. You have to make the minimum payments to avoid late fees and damages to your credit card. So you want to cover the minimum, the bare minimum, the least that you can give every month on these, including your student loans. Then you have your essential care, critical insurance, health insurance, car insurance. Add all of this stuff up. This is your survival number. Daycare centers, child care, when you can't watch the kids, your mom and them don't want to watch the kids, your auntie and them don't want to watch the kids, you ain't got nobody to watch the kids for free. You want to make sure that you get these people on the ball for you. But if they can't, you got to cover the cost. How often out of the month can I pay somebody else to watch my kid when my kid is not old enough to be dropped off at a public school and let them watch my kid? This is going to be your survival number. It is the absolute minimum. Like Michael said, remember to like and subscribe while y'all flying through here. Remember to like and subscribe. And then hit that notification button. But this is the absolute minimum that your household is going to need to operate every month. Knowing this number takes away so much stress and guesswork. But next, you're going to create your full budget. This is going to include your survival numbers plus all of the other things that make you feel like life is livable. Here you can add things like internet, phone bills, a modest budget for eating out or fun, personal care, hair, nails, fingernails, eyelashes, items, the streaming services, household supplies. The space between your survival number and your full budget number is your margin. That's your flex zone. In a month where your income is low, you immediately cut back to the survival budget without panicking. In a month where you earn more, that extra cash doesn't just disappear into lifestyle creep. It gets the job done without being wasted, which we're going to be covering in step 2 and step 3. Because if the maximum quantity of essentials that makes life worth living is met, anything above that is going to be lifestyle creep. You don't want to waste money on that stuff. You want to put that money in some other place where you're still covered financially. If you want it but you don't need it, don't get it. You understand? Now, let's talk about how this is going to work for a couple. The key is to operate as a team, which usually means pooling your resources together. The scattered accounts create confusion, fees, and a lack of clarity. Combining your finances is the most effective way to get a true picture of your household finances. This is all the money that's coming into the house. And this doesn't mean that you lose your personal freedom. A great system is that yours, mine, and ours approach, which is built around a central joint account. That you keep your own personal accounts, I keep my own personal accounts, and then we have a joint account in the middle that helps us do the stuff that we're going to do together. And here's how it's going to work. If you don't already have one, you want to open a joint account. This is the hub for your shared financial lifestyle. You want to use it only for the bills and any expenses that you guys share. You want to keep your personal accounts and use them for yourselves. You each keep your own separate checking accounts, savings accounts, investment portfolios, and this is going to be for your own personal guilt-free spending and money opportunities. Then you want to calculate your contributions. Look at your full budget, and let's say that your total share expenses are like $3,500. Now look at your combined take-home pay Maybe one partner brings in $2,500 a month, and the other one brings in $3,500 a month. Your total is $6,000. Then you want to contribute proportionally. Proportionally. Michael says debt to income ratio. Yeah, debt to income ratio is a pretty good thing to pay attention to when you're paying attention to your credit score, your credit report, your FICO score. But debt to income ratio it does play a role here, but it is more how we're going to conquer and control the debt, not so much what the difference is, what we do with the money. Because you have a gross income that both people pay into. We call it pre-tax money that comes into the house. And then we have, after whatever we've spent, that net profit is what we utilize as discretionary spending instead of investment opportunities. So what we want to have is we want to have money coming in, covering all of the debt that is necessary and reasonable. So necessary, reasonable. Reasonable is above necessary. And then everything else above reasonable is invested somewhere else so that we can turn over a huge profit and not be so damn broke all the damn time. Now, splitting the bills 50-50 is rarely fair for your incomes, especially if your incomes are not identical. I know that egalitarian women and feminine men like to come and talk about 50-50, 50-50. 50-50 doesn't make sense. If she makes less money than you and she puts up half of the bills, she might be giving up 3/4 of her income. Where if you're making twice as much as her and you're putting up half the bills, you're only putting up 25% of the money. 50-50 doesn't make sense. So check this out. Instead, contribute proportionally. In an example, partner A might earn about 42% of the income and partner B might earn about 58% of the income. So in this particular situation, partner A can contribute 42% of the shared expenses, which would be about $1,470, and partner B would contribute 58% of the expenses, which is about $2,030. This is going to be fair, and they would be able to share the load equivocally. And I'm going to go back real quick and let's talk about this, because if partner A is making $2,500 and partner A gave up $1,470, partner A has about $1,030 left. Now, partner B made $3,500. Partner B gives up $2,030. Partner B has $1,470. If they would have went 50-50 on the bills, if both people put in $3,000, partner A would be broke and partner B would have $500. That's why it's not fair to do 50-50. Okay? It's reasonable. Both people have at least $1,000 by doing a proportional split. Then there's going to be that argument about equal investment and equal authority. But if you're making less money out of the relationship, you're semi-independent. It does not mean that the person that makes more money than you can boss you around because they make more money. But at the end of the day, you should be able to show them a little bit more respect, and they should not have to demand as much from you. You should just be able to offer a little bit more respect, because if the shit hits the fan, the person with the extra money is going to cover the spread unless they're financially irresponsible. If they're financially irresponsible, you picked the wrong partner. So don't get mad at them because they're irresponsible. Get mad at yourself because you knew that and you dated them anyway. First person accountability. Okay. If you dating Chris Brown after the first 20 girls that got their ass whooped, You knew what you was getting into. Now, the next step is automating the system. This is when you're going to start setting up those automatic transfers. On payday, your contribution should move from your personal account into your joint account. All shared bills, rent, utilities, etc., get paid from this joint account, preferably automatically. You want to set up your payment option to probably be a week after payday. Because if you're going to if you don't have a joint bank account in the same bank as your individual accounts, it might take 3 to 5 days for the money to transfer over. Your auto pay should happen 5 to 7 days after you attempted the transaction. So if your money comes in on the 1st, it should clear the joint bank account by the 7th. Your auto pay should start on the 10th. Money should be lingering in the joint bank account before auto pay triggers. Okay. This prevents accidentally not having enough time to put the money in. This prevents accidentally forgetting. This prevents not getting paid on time. Because even if you work with a small business owner, if the budget didn't come in and they didn't release the paychecks or a paycheck bounce or whatever, you want to make sure that there's enough money there to cover the spread. And that dials us back to what we were discussing about those small emergency funds, because a small emergency fund, $500 to $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 that you're building up in your emergency fund. If somebody's paycheck ain't coming, they know it's not coming. They can wire transfer the money to the joint bank account to cover the bills in advance, so that when the auto pay happens, it's going to happen automatically. Now, this is an alternative to advance paying your bills, because remember what I told you, basic services, phone bill, car insurance, light bill, water bill, these are things that have a fixed rate on it. If you overpay it, you're entitled to services without additional capital. So if your light bill is $100 a month, you give them $1,200, they're not going to charge you any money until the $1,200 is gone on your account. So if your light bill is above $100 a month and you give them $1,200, it might take them 10 months to eat up that $1,200. But for that 10 months, you don't got to give them a dollar. Likewise, if you're going to set up auto pay and you're going to put $1,200 into your joint bank account for the year for the light bill, it's already sitting there waiting for the automatic bill pay to occur. Same thing with the car insurance. If the car insurance is $1,000 for 6 months and you put that $1,000 in there, or you put $1,200 in there for the car insurance, when it comes and takes the $1,000 out, your car insurance is paid for the next 6 months and you don't have to look for it, right? So if your emergency, if you did not necessarily an emergency fund, but an advanced budget in your joint account, where the next 12 months worth of basic utilities is already in the bank, and now we're just adding the rent every month on top of that, we don't have to worry about how the bills are going to get paid, because the next 12 months is already sitting in the bank account. So I could get furloughed for 2 months. The bills are already in the joint bank account, and the auto pay is going to cover that. We just got to find out how we're going to eat. We're going to talk about that soon too. Michael said a recent survey found that 70% of couples split household bills 50-50, even with income disparities. Doesn't mean that it's not a bad idea, that it's a bad idea to do that, Michael. So even though, so here's the thing, and I left it up there for a while. I want you to understand that while 70% of couples split household bills 50-50, we recognize that 72% of Americans are still living paycheck to paycheck and struggling regardless of how their finances are. And 75 or 80% of relationships fall apart due to financial arguments, not infidelity. So while 50-50 split is what people do, 50-50 splits don't work. And 50-50 splits don't work because typically the person who makes the most money is going to put in less than the person who makes the least money. The person who makes the least money is going to feel financially strained. They're going to be complaining about the wasteful spending of the person with the most money, because if we both put up $2,000, I just told you, if you've got $6,000 worth of expenses, or wait, how much was the expenses in this example? We calculated $3,500 worth of expenses. So if you had $3,500 worth of expenses, that's roughly $1,750 per person. Now, if we split the bills 50-50, and the person making $2,500 got to give up $1,700, they barely got $500 left to their name for the rest of the month. Gas and maybe a cup of coffee to get them to work every day. The person making $3,500 got over $1,500 left, or at least like $900 or $1,000 left. The money is going to be off kilter. And the fact is that the person with the smaller paycheck is going to be hard up. But that's in a situation where you've used your budgeting skills to reduce your expenses. Majority of people who are making $6,000 a year together are spending about $5,800 of that, or $5,500 of that, where one person is putting all of their money on the bills and the other person is putting some of their money on the bills. And that puts you in a situation where if the woman is making less than a man and she's giving her whole paycheck to the household, and then he gives some of his paycheck to the household, whatever the fuck she needs after that, he's got to give that money to her because she ain't got no fucking money left. And then flip the script. If she's making more money than him and he's putting all of his money on the bills, and then he needs something, she's going to feel pressured to give him even more money. You know what I mean? So and that offsets the traditional expectations that men are supposed to be the providers. Women aren't really satisfied with a man that don't make enough, right? So she's not only covering the spread, she's covering for his impulse buys. It is harder for a man to ask a woman for money to buy something stupid. It's easy for a woman to ask a man for extra money to buy something stupid. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm just saying most women are going to be like, fuck that shit. You better get your own McDonald's money. You understand? So 50-50 doesn't work. You both have a reasonably similar quantity of spendable capital if you reorganize and budget your money better, so that you're not wasting money unnecessarily. And then proportionally divide the money, because the way I cut that 50-50 split, one person making $2,500, the other person making $3,500, they've got about $3,500 worth of expenses, instead of one person paying the bill and the other person having $2,500 in their pocket, or one person paying the bill and having $500 left over, the other person paying the bill and being broke. I said, well, shit, proportionally split it. Both people got $1,000, at least $1,000 in their pocket together. That makes more sense. Nobody's bitching. I don't feel strained because I make less than you, and you don't feel strained because you make less than me. Because that actually causes a problem in relationships where if the person who makes more money wants to go out to eat, we're splitting everything 50-50. We just went half on all the utilities. We just went half on all the bills and everything. I want to go to Red Lobster or whatever, and you want to do the 50-50. You can't afford to pay for the restaurant. The money that's left in your pocket going to put gas in the car to your next paycheck. You're not going to want to go out. You're going to have to decline and make excuses, because the excuse is not going to be, I can't afford it because we're in this together. I don't feel good. I got a headache, blah, blah, blah. Dude's going to go out without you, or vice versa. You know, he's going to make excuses. He's not going to say, I can't afford it. You know, he's going to just decline. My back hurt. I'm tired. I got to go to work in the morning. She's going to go out without him. Or in situations where the one person says, don't worry, I got it, and then the other person goes along. Now you're going to feel indebted to the person that took you out on their dollar. Or you're going to have that other situation where you're going to feel entitled because you covered the other person. Because we have those situations as well. When the women come up and they, oh, you couldn't even afford this dinner. And they go in on you. You got some of these sisters that be sassy as fuck because they cover the tab. You know? And then you got some guys that are overbearing as well. It's not a one-sided scenario. So proportionally dividing the money allows for both of you to have a reasonable quantity of your own spending money to take care of yourself. So if y'all want to go out to eat and y'all want to do 50-50, 50-50 by dynamic is not 100% 50-50. And that's what I wanted to prove to you there. It's not 100% 50-50. It's going to be 60-40, 70-30, some shit like that. Okay. And yeah, you're right. You're right, Steven. McDonald's money is a necessity because them damn cheeseburgers, man. Them cheeseburgers go a long way, boy, when your ass is hungry. Just a plain cheeseburger. I don't need nothing special on that bitch. Plain cheeseburger. Shoot. That'll go a long way. But yeah, the goal is to reduce the arguments and the debates and the fights in the relationship. And just doing 50-50 doesn't really help that. Okay. So what's left in your personal accounts is going to be yours, and you're going to be able to spend it however you want, save it however you want, do whatever you want with it. No questions asked, no judgment, no resentment, no entitlements. This system will get rid of the good cop, bad cop scenario, and that dynamic is the system that handles bills where no one person is in control of the bills. All the bills are automated. We just throw money into the pot, let it do its thing. He says 100%, 100%, both parties give their best. That never happens either. That never happens either. You're not going to see 100%, 100%. You're going to see 60, 40, 70, 30. One person is going to do more in one scenario than the other person, and the other person is going to do more in a different scenario than the first person. It's never going to be, I'm going to give it my all 100% of the time. There's societal burnout. So after I got my ass whooped at work, working a manual labor job, you might have been in a call center dealing with mental stress. My body hurts. I come back to work. I might not put in as much effort with cleaning the house. You come back, you're pissed off that I'm laying on the couch watching Raw versus SmackDown while you're cleaning up because your body doesn't hurt. Okay. I'm not putting in as much in the house as you would expect me to. It's not 100%, 100%. Likewise, it is the man's job to be outside cutting the grass. So let's say we got a decent sized yard. He gonna be outside doing stuff outside. She gonna be inside doing stuff inside. When women complain about the cooking, cleaning, and baking and shit, they only think about in their fucking apartment. But if you buy yourself a house, who the fuck is outside by default cutting the grass? Always the man. Only time a woman outside cutting the grass is when it's a single woman. The man's job to take out the trash. So now you have gender roles deciding which chores in the house the man must do. Then the gender roles that assign the other tasks to the women now have to be split 50-50 between the man and the woman. So if the man's taking out the trash, the man's cleaning the gutters, the man's doing stuff on the roof, the man's taking care of the yard, the man's washing the car, then the man's got to go in the house and go half on the dishes, washer and dryer, go half on the laundry, washer and dryer, go dishwasher, and all of that stuff, right? Then go half on the vacuuming, half on the laundry, but he's all the way outside mowing the lawn and everything. That it's still not 50-50. It's still not 50-50. It's not, the relationships are not divided equally. It's not. It is a false sense of entitlement that the feminist movement allows for women to be irresponsible and not be held accountable. It does not benefit both sides. And that's where the fights come from. That's why we have so much social media debate. Because as soon as you say that he got to go outside and do something because he's a man, it is no longer 50-50. It's 50-50 is out the window. So in order for it to be 100% even, he's got to wash the left side of the car. She's got to wash the right side of the car. He's got to clean the left side of the driveway. She's got to clean the right side of the driveway. He takes the trash out every other time, and she takes the trash out every other time. And it's got to be filled to the same level every time it gets taken out. So it's equally heavy every time it gets taken out. Not she only takes the trash out when it's light. You understand? They got to take turns with the laundry or do it together. 100% of the things, they got to do it together in order for it to be 50-50. It's never going to happen that way. One person will load the dishwasher, which is a lot easier than the other person unloading the dishwasher. One person might load the washing machine, which is not as difficult as taking all of the heavy wet clothes and putting it into the dryer. And even if the person that loaded the washing machine is the person that unloads the dryer, the person that loaded the dryer had a heavier workload. Then if you're putting away the clothes, whoever decides to iron, because you only got one iron in most houses, the person that's not ironing is not putting in the equal quantity of effort. When you start breaking it down, bro, it's never going to be 50-50. The closest you're going to get is 55-45. One person is going to do just a little bit more than the other person. But as long as both of you are satisfied about what got done, that's what you aim for. That nobody's complaining. That's what you're aiming for. Nobody feels overworked or underappreciated. That's what you're aiming for. A relationship is like the ocean. The tide comes in and goes out, right? But a relationship is like a twin drive-through at Checkers. You're both going down two different paths, but you're going to end up at the same fucking window. But one of you will come first every time, and the other person will come second every time. And it's not always going to be the same person each time y'all get in that line. Sometimes the left line is faster than the right line, and sometimes the right line is faster than the left line. She can clean together. She can do all of it. Shit. These stay-at-home sisters that be swearing to God that they doing so much with they taking care of the kids in a 2-bedroom apartment. Sweetheart, let's buy a house and go out, have you outside cutting the grass. And then let's not just talk about cutting the grass. Let's have you outside fertilizing the lawn so that we can keep a green grass and taking care of all of the other stuff that's going on outside, painting the house and washing the windows and cleaning the driveway out and cleaning out the garage and all that other stuff. That's all man's job stuff. They do the whole 9 yards. She just a lot of the times the women throw themselves straight into the laundry room and the kitchen. There is like 8 other rooms in the goddamn house that still needs her attention. So and the whole outside of the house is the man's job. So there's so much more shit there. He said, I'm so used to being single and doing 100%, it would feel strange not doing it all next time I get in a relationship. But here's the thing though. A lot of the times, us men who have been used to doing 100% of it, get into a relationship with a woman, and because we care so much about her, we insist that we do it all. Don't do that. Don't do that. Do not stop her from taking her ass in that kitchen. Do not stop. Matter of fact, you better put a 30 to 45 minute delay on your response to how you take care of your shit, just to see if she gonna take her ass in there and go do something. I'll put some dishes in the sink today and go see if they still in there tomorrow, just to see if the other person in the house gonna do something. It'll get done eventually, but because if I get up and I do everything, the other person in the house has absolutely nothing to do. If I voluntarily say, no, don't worry about it, I got it, then the other person has nothing to do. And if the other person has nothing to do, again, it is not 50-50. It is, again, 70-30, 80-20, 90-10. It is not even. And eventually you're going to feel burned out. She's going to get used to it. Then when you don't do it, stuff is going to pile up. That's when you're going to start feeling unappreciated, because now that you're not doing it anymore, she's not even willing to help because she got used to it not being her responsibility. You'll get to it eventually. I ain't got to do it. You told me not to. 6 months ago, 9 months ago, 3 years ago, you told me don't do it. You've been doing it for the last 4 years. Why are you bitching about it now? That's when it starts being hard to make changes. You built a routine around being the person that does the most. And now you bitching about it when you the one that offered to do the most. You know, a lot of men put themselves in that position. We offer to pay for the most shit. Women don't just expect us to pay for shit because they're petty and stingy and gold diggers. Women expect men to pay for shit because since the women were little girls, their daddies paid for everything, their uncles, their brothers paid for everything, their boyfriends paid for everything, their hookups paid for everything, strange men in the club pay for everything. They are taught by society that women aren't supposed to pay for shit. Then when they get 25, 35, 40 years old and they have this self-entitlement that they expect to get everything without having to do anything for it, that's because they lived a lifestyle where all of the men in their society has embedded in them that they don't have to be fucking responsible and that they don't have to pay for shit. So some of the women that put up the 50-50 offer, they're not putting up the 50-50 offer as a valid, noble cause. They're putting up the 50-50 offer because what they're saying is the most I'm willing to pay for is myself. And that's still a red flag, because at the end of the day, you're supposed to be finding a partner that's willing to go the whole 9 yards for you. We want a partner that's willing to hit that touchdown for us. You understand? We want a partner that's going to bring us a win. You know, and that's what we're not getting when, as men, we put ourselves in a position to say, I'll do it. Don't worry, I'm gonna open the door, pull out the chair, take my Versace coat and put it in a mud puddle so that your feet don't get wet. But she's not gonna clean the damn coat. Why? Why are we sacrificing ourselves instinctively? Because society has taught us that's what men's supposed to do. We're deliberately putting ourselves in an inconvenient situation, and then we're deliberately putting her in a convenient situation. And then we're getting pissed off when she doesn't reciprocate. Society doesn't teach women in Western culture how to reciprocate outside of sex, food, and clean clothes. Babysitting the kids. That's the only 4 things that most people can think about that has value in a woman. But can a bitch take my car to the damn mechanic shop and get the oil changed while I'm at work? Can we swap vehicles and you drop my shit off and get the engine rebuilt and you catch an Uber back to the house so that I don't got to do it? Can you catch that package that needs a signature? Can you mail off a package that needs to be shipped by a specific date and time? Can you co-sign on some shit that I can't get on my own? These are other ways that a woman can be helpful in a relationship, especially financially. Women use their career and their education as valid points of value in a relationship, but their career does not contribute to the relationship, and their education only leads to them dominating the conversation and talking over the man and devaluing the man. It doesn't benefit the relationship. And because it doesn't benefit the relationship, she spent 4 to 10 years in college, got her a damn good job, and it does not bring worth to her as a person in a relationship because it's not used in a relationship. 50-50, we're roommates. All you needed was a job. You could have got a job at fucking McDonald's being a ditch digger in the backyard or something. You could have been scrubbing toilets in McDonald's and been going 50-50. So you're a lawyer. That doesn't value the relationship. But the lifestyle creep that we get because you're a lawyer and I'm a stockbroker, that lifestyle creep allows us to live a more expensive lifestyle, but we're still fucking broke. Yeah, both of us got Benzes. We living in a gated community with an HOA that we overpay because we don't want to deal with HOA telling us what not to do, and we just deal with shit. And at the end of the day, we're still broke as fuck because we're living from paycheck to paycheck. Now, if we put all of our money in the right place and we set up the joint accounts and we advance pay to joint accounts and then set up auto pay where the money is going to automatically come out, we're going to refill it before it runs out. Finally, you got to schedule your bi-weekly money talks. Every other paycheck. Or every other week. This has got to be a non-negotiable. It's not a time to argue about the money. It is a 20-minute check-in. You want to sit down together. You want to look at the joint account, review upcoming bills, talk about your progress, because the shutdown has just affected TSA agents. Their next week's paycheck is their last paycheck. If these motherfuckers don't get their shit together, the paycheck after that, they're not going to get. This is a perfect time for y'all to talk about, like, look, I don't know if I'm going to be getting any more paychecks in February. And if the shutdown don't fix itself, I might not get any paychecks the first week of March, first 2 weeks of March. We need to make adjustments about the upcoming bills to make sure that they're still getting paid until my paychecks come. So this isn't about bitching about, oh, I can't believe you made that extra purchase from Amazon. This is about making sure that your basic necessities are getting covered. So you want to review upcoming bills and you want to talk about your progress. This is going to allow the budget to work. You want to determine this. You want to be able to observe this. Do you need to make adjustments because of the shutdown or not? This is going to be calm, constant communication. It's going to build trust, and it's going to make sure that you're always heading in the same direction. If you want to be more transparent, if y'all exclusively live in a situation where y'all don't have a lot of company coming over, but y'all don't really want to have an open discussion about the budget and like really talk about some shit, y'all could have the budget on a screensaver on the computer. The amount of available money that's in the joint account, what bills are supposed to be due, when they're supposed to be paid, and as long as that joint account's got more money in it than the upcoming bills, there ain't nothing to say. But if one of y'all know that y'all paycheck not coming in, babe, I gotta talk to you because I don't know if I'm gonna get some paychecks. They just furloughed half of the team. I gotta come to work, but Joe's at the house. You know what I mean? That's still a talk. That's still a discussion. All right, I'll put some extra money in the bank to make sure. That's still a talk. And it's going to turn money from a source of conflict into a shared project. Because if your 20-year goal is to quit this job and not have to be stressed out about money ever again for the rest of your life, y'all are working together for that shared goal. So if you got to put up a little bit more for me because I just got furloughed, I appreciate that. I'll put a little bit extra in when I get my money back and cover the spread. That way, we don't have to experience this again, because twice a year it looks like we're going to get furloughed. So might as well start preparing for October right now. Step 2 is the stability fund sprint. Now, with your financial triage budget in place, you stop bleeding financially. You know your survival numbers and you have a system for managing your money as a team, but you're still vulnerable. A flat tire could still send you reaching for a credit card, undoing the progress that you made with paying down expensive credit cards. This is going to be where stability fund comes in. Again, you want to forget the advice to save 3 to 6 months of living expenses for right now. For someone living paycheck to paycheck, that goal is so huge it feels impossible, which is often leading you to doing absolutely nothing. So we're not going to do that. Our goal is to focus sprint to a smaller, more achievable target. Start with an emergency fund. First time you get $500 in there, you did something. Get closer to $1,000. You've got something. Once you get that $1,000, why $1,000? Because it's a powerful, achievable goal that acts as a buffer for the most common financial hiccups. Most reasonable car repair is under $1,000. But to be fair, you got a 20-year-old car, you might want to have $5,000 on hand, because depending on what you're doing, water pump, thermostat, belt, pulley might be $3,500. But brake service, regular brake service, less than $1,000. Rotors, less than $1,000. If you're doing brakes and rotors, it might be $1,000. But if you're doing regular maintenance, most of the things that get done on a car is going to be less than $1,000. So having $1,000 up there as a buffer is pretty decent. It also helps with a surprise dental bill, a broken appliance, like if you got to fix your dishwasher or something like that, without forcing you into high interest debt. A $1,000 fund isn't meant to cover job loss. It's designed to keep small emergencies from derailing your entire plan while you work on paying off the rest of your debts. And that $1,000 can be in a safe at your house. It could be in a high interest savings account. It could be anywhere, as long as it's accessible to you. If you want to throw it into a brokerage account, I mean, you can, but like I told you before, with a brokerage account, you first have to sell the stock, which requires 24 hours to do if you're using ETFs. Then it requires depositing the money into your account, which could take you 3 to 5 business days, not including holidays or weekends. So like we have Monday as a holiday. If you had a financial issue on Thursday and you sold the stock on Friday, you wouldn't get the money until Thursday of next week, because 3 to 5 business days at the fastest, you would get it deposited on Thursday, because if it's sold on Friday and you're depositing it over the weekend, the transaction is going to start on Tuesday and might clear on Thursday. Worst case scenario, if it's 5 days, it's going to skip Friday and you're going to get it the following week on Monday, which means you had a problem last week, Thursday. You're not going to resolve it on President's Day this coming Monday. You're going to have to resolve it the following week on Monday when the money clears the bank. And that's one of the reasons why people say don't put your emergency fund in a brokerage account, because it might make you wait 2 weeks to get the money. But if you have it in a high interest savings account, you can go to an ATM machine and withdraw it, or go directly to the bank if you have withdrawal limits and withdraw that $1,000 out of your bank account. If you have that $1,000 in a safe at your house, you can just go in the master bedroom and just get it, or wherever you hide your safe in your house, away from the kids. This is going to transform a crisis into a minor inconvenience. And for many people who have never been able to save anything, hitting that first $1,000 savings is a massive psychological win. A person who lives from paycheck to paycheck, if you're in a relationship where not only are you living from paycheck to paycheck, you got to borrow against a stone. Scott, friends, family members to hold you over to your next payday. When you start holding an extra $1,000 in your pocket, that makes you feel so much better. And with that $1,000 held in your pocket, you're going to be determined to try to turn that $1,000 into $10,000. Even if you can only put $50 to $100 a month aside for it, you're sitting there telling yourself, if I can make 1,000, I can put 10,000. So think of it as a short, high intensity mission. And then for the next 1 to 3 months, this is your number one financial priority. Every extra dollar that you have before you start going into your brokerage account goes into building this safety net, this financial safety net. Put it into a high interest savings account. Here's how you're going to do it. First, open a dedicated separate savings account, that preferably in a completely different bank than the one that has your paycheck. You want the money coming in from your direct deposit to be a different bank than the money that's holding your savings account. You want the money that you're spending to be a different bank account than the money that's taking your direct deposit. So you're looking at least 3 bank accounts for both of you, which is 6 bank accounts. And the reason why I say this is because if a purchase is made and a dispute has to happen, sometimes the dispute freezes the bank account. If the dispute freezes the bank account, the money in the account is not utilizable until the financial dispute is resolved. If the resolution of the dispute requires the bank to issue you a new bank account number, that new bank account number now requires you to get issued a new debit card, which may require you to use that. If you had that debit card on auto pay, all of the auto pay has been disrupted, which requires you now to contact all of your auto pay and change over your debit card. So if your auto pay account is only used for auto pay, any non-auto pay transactions come from a different account. Your savings is an emergency fund to help buffer your auto pay or help buffer your emergency funds or your emergency transactions, which is not going to impact your basic operations. So you want to have a savings account, you want to have a direct deposit account, you want to have a different account that we said joint bank account for all of your expendables in the relationship. Then you want to have an account that you spend for yourself, right? And this is going to be crucial because your stability funds cannot live in the checking account where you can be able to accidentally spend it. So open a high interest savings account, money mutual account. And if you do it at a different bank to reduce that temptation, turn around and label it stability fund or do not touch this money. And that reduces the ability for that money to go haywire. Second, you want to find the money. And this is going to be where you work in step 1 ends up paying off down the line. The work that you did in step 1 starts paying off now. Review your tracking. Go back to where you tracked your spending, where the leaks were. Cancel those subscriptions that you don't use. Cut out your dining budget or reduce it in half for just 2 months. Try a no spend weekend. Even finding an extra $20 to $50 a month and throwing it in your stability fund makes a real difference. Anytime you didn't need something that you normally would have paid for, like those of you who drink and smoke, y'all just quit drinking and quit smoking. The money that you save on that. If you buy an ounce of weed every month, you only pay $165 on that ounce of weed, and then you stop smoking weed because you might spend $165 on the weed itself, but then you might spend another $30 to $40 on roller papers. If you stop smoking weed, you might save $200 extra. Some people like shit me, but think about it. Think about it. If you can go from being broke to being not broke just to take a vacation on it, you might feel like shit. That'll be way worth it because later on you'll have so much money coming from your brokerage account that you can smoke up all the smoky smoke that you want to smoke. But likewise, if you're putting this into perspective, your ability to reduce bad habits. This could go as far as unnecessary video game subscriptions, whether it's Fortnite or Call of Duty or GTA 5. You want to reduce unnecessary spending. That extra money you will find more financially beneficial being put in a place where now y'all have that financial security. And then anything that you're not utilizing out of financial security, that money can actually go directly into your brokerage account, which is an interesting dynamic because instead of your money going from your checking account to your brokerage account, your money will go from your savings account to your brokerage account. And then when you need money, you're gonna take the money out of your savings and put it directly into your pocket. And whatever you took out of your savings is being advanced to your brokerage account. Now you don't gotta wait for the damn money. So if you needed $2,000 and you took it out of your brokerage account, and the money from the brokerage account is going directly into your savings account, you got $5,000 in your savings account. You take the $2,000 out of your savings account, go take care of that problem. By the time the brokerage account clears the savings account, you already solved the problem. And then you can just put the money back. Now, bank all windfall is going to be the next thing that you're going to do. Any extra money that comes your way goes straight into the funds. Tax refund, put it into this fund. A small work bonus, put it into this fund. Birthday cash, put it into this fund. Sell something online, put it into the fund. You're building up your miniature emergency fund to a massive emergency fund that can actually start becoming the core investing catalyst to your brokerage account and all other investment opportunities in your portfolio. For many people, committing 100% of a tax refund can get them to their goal in one shot. Think about those of y'all that are granted up to $25,000 of deductions towards your overtime hours. Think about y'all that is getting a certain percentage of your tips being tax-free. So y'all getting all these reimbursements in 2025. A lot of y'all that was getting y'all ass kicked in 2025 for work. A lot of y'all is about to get a $20,000 or $30,000 payout in 2026. This is the perfect time to put $10,000 of emergency funds there at $10,000 in a brokerage account just by taking your tax refund and doing that. And if your standard of living is $3,000 a month, $3,500 a month, that $10,000 would cover you what we said, 3 to 6 months. $3,500 can go for at least 2 months and a couple of weeks. Now, increase income temporarily is going to be the next thing we're going to focus on. Can one of you pick up a few extra shifts for a month? Can you do some side gig work for just a few weeks? Uber, Lyft. Y'all both got a car. Y'all can both do Uber and Lyft. Can you do gig work for just a few weeks? Frame it as a short-term mission. All the money from the side hustles go directly to the funds. If you can spread the wealth to get that 6 months out there, you have hit your mark. The third thing you want to do is automate cautiously. Based on your budget, you should have a surplus in most months. Set up an automatic transfer of a small, safe amount, even just $25 per paycheck, from your checking to your stability fund. Allows for consistency in building this fund. The key is going to be consistency, because even if you already put the 10 stacks up there, y'all did the side hustle, brought in an extra $1,000 between the two of y'all. Now y'all got 11 grand. Y'all know y'all got about 2.5 to 3 months worth of money sitting in that stability fund. You met your mark. Now you're saying, well, let's just take $25 out of my paycheck and $25 out of your paycheck every month, or every check, which is $100 between the two of y'all, and putting it into this stability fund to make sure that it gets that slow creep. Now, you could double down and take $50 out of the stability fund, out of the or $100 if you're putting in $200, you can take out $100. But if you're putting in $100, you can take out $50 and put it into your brokerage account. So when $25 out of each one of your paychecks and $25 out of each one of her paychecks can go into your stability fund, and that's $100 between the two of y'all. And then $50 can come out of your stability fund and go into your brokerage account. And then you can spread your money around in your brokerage account. Now you know that you've got more money in your stability account than what you have in your brokerage account. You can always readjust and take large sums of money and throw it into your brokerage account, but you guarantee that you have 3 to 6 months worth of savings before you start going all in on your brokerage account. This allows you to go from living from paycheck to paycheck to buffering chaos from convenience. You're going to pay yourself first, even if it's a micro scale level. You're going to pay yourself first. And this sprint is a powerful tool for a couple. It is going to be your first big shared financial win. But when you hit that $1,000 goal, you celebrate, not by spending the money, but by acknowledging that as a team, you did something that once felt impossible. You've created your first layer of financial security. Now, and only now, are you ready to start tackling that debt? I'm not going to say all extra income goes to paying down debt after you have built your emergency fund. Yes, and that's where we are next. Paying down the debt. So, with your triage built and working, and you have that $1,000 stability fund, or if you manage to make it all the way to your 3 to 6 month emergency fund, you've built the foundation that you need to start attacking that debt. Now, before trying to pay down the debt was like bailing out a sinking boat with a hole in the bottom. Now you've patched the holes, your budget is sound, and you have a life raft, which is your stability fund, or your full-fledged emergency fund, whichever one you were able to fill. Now it's time for you to start bailing the water out. First, you need to know your enemy. You and your partner have to sit down and make a master list of every single debt that you have, excluding your mortgage, because that is going to be on your joint account if you guys are paying for that together. But for each other thing that you're going to have on the list, you have the creditors like visas, personal loan lenders, student loans, and then you want to total the balance that you owe, the interest rate APR, and the minimum monthly payment that you have to pay for this, which should have been put on a spreadsheet when you were calculating what was not essential, right? Seeing it all in one place can be a little bit scary, but it is a necessary step. You want to turn this to the vague anxiety of debt and then flip it into a concrete list of problems that you guys can actually solve together. And now you choose your weapons, because there's going to be two proven strategies for the demolition of this debt. We've already talked about it earlier tonight with the debt avalanche and the debt snowball. Neither one is better. The best one is the one that you and your partner will actually stick with. And if you weren't here earlier today, the debt avalanche is mathematically the most effective method and will save you the most money on interest. You would make minimum payments on all of your debts, and then you take every extra dollar you have and throw it at the debt with the highest interest rate. Once that debt is gone, you have the ability to take the minimum payment plus all of the extra money and avalanche it onto the debts with the next highest interest rate and repeat it until you have no extra debts, leaving yourself, as Michael said, with either $1 or $2 left in each one of your line of credits at the end of the billing cycle, and then paying off that line of credit. Who's it for? This is what you got to pay attention to. It's going to be the great for people that is motivated by numbers and efficiency. This is the people who it's for. The greatest people to benefit is people who are motivated by numbers. When you're seeing that bill going down quickly, when you're seeing a bill being paid off for the first time, when you're seeing that zero balance on your credit score, or when you're seeing that $2 balance and 99% available credit on your card. If you're saving on interest, this gets you fired up, and this is going to be your plan to motivate you to keep doing it. The downside is that if your high interest debt is the larger one, it might take longer time to get your first win, which could feel demoralizing. So if you have a $10,000 card with a 28% interest on it, you're might going to feel less successful in the long run when you compare to other credit cards that might have a 20% or 18% interest on it, and those cards might have a lower debt ratio to it. Now, the debt snowball is going to be the method that is all about psychological momentum. You make minimum payments on all of your debts, but then you take the extra money and throw it on the debt with the smallest balance, no matter whatever the interest rate is. Once that's paid off, you get an immediate win, and you then take the minimum payments plus all of the extra cash and snowball it onto the next smallest debt and roll your way up to the biggest debts. Just like a snowball rolling down a hill. This is going to be perfect for couples who need to see progress and stay motivated. So those little quick wins can build the teamwork and momentum that you need to tackle the biggest debts. If you're in a situation where you're both in this together and y'all both have credit card debt, and your partner's credit card is paid off first, then your credit card, then your partner's credit card, then your credit card, then your partner's credit card, until y'all don't have outstanding credit card debt outside of the $1 to $2 that y'all leave to show revolving payments, your partner will feel acknowledged because you got to them, whether you got to them first or you got to them second. Either way, you're able to show progress on both sides. This isn't about just doing it for one person. It's about doing it for both. Because when I told y'all about building credit, y'all would build credit by adding each other on as authorized users. So if you walked into a relationship and both of y'all got 5 credit cards, before you request the first credit card, you paid all of those credit cards down and then add your partner on to all 5 of those credit cards as an authorized user, and they do the same without issuing extra cards. And that allows the two of you to each, since you each had 5 cards, if y'all come together, y'all got 10 cards, and that means y'all got 10 revolving lines of credit. That's going to boost your credit score. And if your debt is 0 or 99% credit limit, 0.1% utilization between the two of you shared, you're going to see yourself with a higher credit score and more likelihood to succeed. And if in the event that, I would say, do it after you get married, y'all end up co-signing on shit, they're going to go off of the combined credit score. But if y'all are sharing lines of credit, your credit scores are going to be similar outside of the unpaid debt. Now, there will be a little bit of downside to the snowballing thing because you'll likely pay more in interest over time on the ones with the higher interest rates compared to the avalanche method. So which one you decide to choose, has to honestly be a conversation between you and your partner. Do you need the quick wins of the snowball to stay motivated, or do you both of you get driven by the long-term savings of the avalanche? The most important thing is that you both agree on the strategy and commit to it as a team. Because once you've picked your strategy, automate your attack. Set up the automatic minimum payments for every debit that you have so that you never miss a payment. Then you schedule an extra payment for your target debt to go out the day after you get paid so that your minimums are covered, but the extra money is going on whichever one that's up next to be removed. And that way you don't have to remember to take care of the regular minimum payments. Now, you'll also find yourself, once you start knocking those credit cards down to the bare minimum, you will come to find that some of your credit cards will be readjusted from having auto pay at like the minimum $50 a month to now having the auto pay of $5 or $10 a month, which means you've got more money to put somewhere else. Is that if you have a car with a 28% interest on it, it's time to start taking the bus and get rid of it, if you ask me. Okay, so there are credit cards that have variable rates between 18 and 29%. There are cars that have variable rates between 14 and sometimes 28% if you got bad credit. Because one of the things you have to recognize is that some people don't live near the bus and they have a 500 to a 580 credit score. With that at-risk line of credit, they may still qualify for a high interest loan for a used car to help them drive to work when they could not catch a bus, and an Uber costs more. Ubers cost more than driving yourself. If you're paying $40 or $50 a day one way, or if you're paying $50 round trip every day, 10 days, that's $500. So when you start talking about $50 a day to take an Uber to work because you live outside of the bus line, it does not bother you to pay $500 a month on a used car because of the 28% interest rates. Because 10 days of Uber is more expensive than 30 days of a car note at 28% interest. And that's why poor people do that. Poor people do buy here, pay here's with 15-year-old cars, $5,000 or $7,000 car, finance it, end up paying $14,000 by the time they finish paying off the car. But it's a car that they could get with $1,000 to $3,000 down and $250 every other week until the car is paid off. And the dealer is flexible because your down payment paid his cost for the car anyway. So your monthly payments is the profits. So he's not going to be a stickler to the payments because he's not out the cost of the car. And that's why, so yeah, you would say, well, if it's 28%, it's time to start looking at something else. But if your job is an hour car drive away, it's probably 3 or 4 hour bus drive. So you're not even thinking about saying, well, if you're outside of the bus line, let's say you work a night job, buses don't run at night. Now you're in a situation where you're taking cabs. You're not going to be able to ride a bicycle that distance. If it takes you an hour to get there by car, it likely take you 2 to 3 hours to get there by bike. You still have to be bike. You have to be presentable. So if you get in there, you're covered in sweat and everything like that, you musty and stuff like that, you're going to have to change your clothes and freshen up in order for you to start your shift. It's not the same as being able to get in your car and drive to the job. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of Americans are poor, because we spend so much money on the convenience of getting to work that we will pay whatever it costs to get there. We book our day to the least convenience where we don't have enough time to say, oh, I'll get up 5 hours before I have to go to work and commute to work. Only work an 8-hour shift and then commute 5 hours back. That's 18 hours with 6 hours to sleep. We don't do that. We work a 12-hour shift with a 30-minute to an hour drive to work and a 30-minute to an hour drive from work, which is 14 hours. 30 minutes for a man to get ready for work, 2 hours for a woman to get ready for work. That is 16 hours. 30 minutes to take a shower and get ready for bed after work, or 2 hours for a woman to do her skincare regimen. That is 18 hours. And then 6 hours of sleep. If you take that car out of that lifestyle, 28% or whatever, they're gonna fall apart. You're not gonna be able to sustain, because that 12-hour a day job, 4 days a week, gives them the 8 hours of overtime that they don't have to sweat over. That's why they do it. And then if they're lucky and they can stay late 3 days a week and turn that 12-hour shift into a 13-hour shift and pull 3 extra hours, now they're looking at 10 to 15 hours a week of overtime, and they're not pulling extra days. They still got that 3 days off. Where one day, the first day, you're sleeping the whole fucking day. So you really only got 2 active days off. 1.5 if you're taking your ass to bed early, because you're going to be doing another 12-hour shift. Now, but I understand what you're saying, Stephen. I do agree that if it is cheaper to not do it, then don't. But take, for example, I might only leave the house probably once a week to take care of business. I only put gas in the car once every 3 months. The car insurance itself might be the most expensive cost of the vehicle outside of any vehicle maintenance that would happen on this 20-something-year-old vehicle, because it's a 2003 in 2026. Now, if the car insurance is like $100 a month, that's like $25 a week. Some people might say that I'm wasting money on car insurance because I only drive once a week. Well, I drive more than once a week, but on average, I drive at least once a week. But you can't find an Uber that is going to take you to 5 or 7 different places for $25. So I might leave the house once a week, but I'll end up going to a doctor's appointment, mailbox, bank, grocery store. And each time you get out the car, that's a new ride. So while I'm only paying the $100 a month for the car insurance, $25 a week for the car insurance, it is cheaper to pay that $25 a week for the car insurance for the car to sit in the yard 6 days out of the week and not move than it would be to pay for 5 or 7 $15 rides with Uber. And I got to drive to another city to go to the grocery store. So it's not like it's a short trip. I can't catch the bus, but a bus pass. In some cities, you've got the bus pass. That's like a all-day bus pass might be $5, right? So you say, well, all-day bus pass, $5. And if you did 4 all-day bus passes, you're spending $20 for the month. You can save $75 to catch the bus. But you and I both know that the connectors don't work. So when there's a connector involved, there's an extra 30 minutes to an hour for your commute. To get to one location might take you 3 hours. The convenience of driving 5 minutes to each location, I'd be gone for 4 hours out of the day and would have covered 5 or 7 locations, instead of walking most of the way and then catching the bus whenever I got burnt out and get the rest of the way and spending 3 hours for one destination or 2 hours for one destination. That lack of convenience is compensated by that 28% interest for cars that a lot of other people pay for. But I own all of my cars. I don't have any monthly payments on them. So that $25 a month, $25 a week for car insurance, that's it. That's all I got to do. And since I don't drive that much, that $25 a week, and then it's what, $30, $35 to fill the tank once every 3 months. Like the last time I put gas in the car was in December, at the beginning of December. And I haven't had to put gas in the car since then. And I only put gas in the car because I didn't want to forget. I wasn't even out of gas. I still had a quarter tank of gas from December, and it's February. So the full tank of gas in my car right now is going to last me until like April. That's how little I use the car, right? So that $30 is like $10 a month. So between the and $10 a month is like $2.50 a week, which means that I'm ultimately paying $27.50 a week to move my car. And you're not going to find an Uber ride that's that price. You're not going to find 5 consecutive Uber rides that totals that price. That's the reason why people pay that kind of money, that 28%. But during this phase where you're paying down your debt, you must avoid new debt at all costs, new unnecessary debt. So your stability fund is going to be for true emergencies only. You want to use your budget to pay for everything else with cash. And if you're putting, and I mean, you can charge things to your credit card and then immediately put it down onto the credit card when you get paid so that you can get what you need now and then take your paycheck and put it on the stuff that you already bought. But you want to make sure that you're not charging to your credit card what you don't have coming in on your paycheck, knowing that in the shutdown that you do got a check coming. You don't want to charge anything to your card that you don't got a check coming to pay for. That way your card is at $1 or $2 at the end of the billing cycle, and then you can do whatever you got to do after that. So if you're putting out debt fires with one hand while starting new debts with another hand, where you're just buying extra shit and charging it to the game and letting it sit and saying, fuck it, I'll deal with it next time, you're never going to make any progress. But if you're paying it all down and you're not adding to the fold without paying it down as well, you'll be able to see improvements. You got to be a team on a mission. So the debt demolition must be both of y'all appropriately, not impulse buying on anything unnecessary. Every dollar that you don't spend on other things is another dollar that you can use to buy back your freedom. Now, there's a critical and legal protections for unmarried couples that we were talking about earlier, and this is a bonus section for y'all. More and more couples are building a life together without getting married. And that's great. But it is critical to understand that the law does not automatically protect unmarried partners the way it does married partners. So if you're combining your finances, buying properties together, sharing your lives, you must create your own legal protections. And if you start doing this from day one, when y'all both decide to start moving in together, y'all can build the habit, like I told y'all earlier on in the show, to make sure that from the dating phase, you've got a girlfriend contract that leads to a fiance contract that leads to a marriage contract, which reinforces a prenup contract. She's less likely to argue about the prenup contract. She's been signing contracts with you since y'all started dating. You probably the only relationship that was so financially organized that she had to sign a contract to date you. And this is an assets and capital contract. This isn't about how many times your girl gonna give you a net out of the month. You know what I mean? This isn't about how often she gonna spread them cheeks. This is about who has control over what and who relinquishes authority over what if the relationship dissolves itself. Who's investing into what? And this is actually very important when one of you or both of you own real estate and you're paying into that real estate. Relying on a trust alone, relying on your trust, because you can use a trust to buffer this shit, but relying on just your faith in the other person alone is a recipe for disaster, because while things are good, everybody can be trusted. Soon as things go south, people start getting bitter and they start acting negatively, and that negative behavior can backlash. So think of these legal documents not as a sign of distrust, but as an act of profound care for both of you. You're creating a clear rule book that protects you both if the unexpected circumstances happen. So this isn't about, oh, well, if he cheats on me, deal's off. No. As long as we're together, this is what we have control over. This is what we're paying for. This is what you're investing in. This is what you're entitled to if we break up for whatever reason. He said with these skimmers popping up everywhere, I won't use my bank card no more. Well, okay, they've got skimmers, but see, here's the thing. Like we talked about, FX Trader was talking about this before. If you use a preloaded credit card, it has a limit to it. There are certain places because you're going to use your debit card in most places, Walmart, your local gas station. You're going to pay at the pump. You're not going to want to go to the wait in line to buy gas with a credit card. And you're not going to want to carry cash or the change from the cash because when you're filling up your gas tank, you don't know exactly how much it costs to fill your gas tank. Most people don't. Some people who buy gas often enough do know exactly how much it costs dollar for dollar to fill the tank. But you also got to understand is that when it comes down to the cost of gas versus the convenience of your tank being full, if you put a specific dollar amount on your car, it doesn't always fill the tank. And then you think, well, I put $40 in the car and that's supposed to last me a certain period of time, but a lot of it might have not have been gas. A lot of it might have just been air or water. Because you got some gas stations that do some underhanded ways to take extra money out of your pocket. There's scams everywhere. And the fact is that regardless of how much you got to pay for the gas, you want to make sure you got a full tank. Sometimes you got to pay at the pump and just let them run it so that you're good. With that being said, if you've got preloaded debit cards and credit cards and you've got secured credit cards with limitations to them, you can use, because a secured credit card has a fixed amount on it. So you got a $500 secured credit card. They can't scam that much off you. All you got is $500. If you've got a $50 preloaded card, all you got is $50, and they can't scam that much off you. You don't use your $10,000 credit card in untrusted locations. You don't use your $15,000 credit card for an online purchase. I don't give a fuck if you use a PayPal or not. You don't use your card for stuff like that. If you're going to use a card, you have a specific card that you use for erroneous charges. And that card, whatever the limit is on that card, is exclusively for that. And then you put the money back on it. Or if you're going to do like what I do, is you use your PayPal debit card, where you preload money to PayPal, make PayPal the primary source, not your debit or credit card. If something happens with the transaction, instead of you having to debate it with your bank, you're debating it with PayPal. PayPal is not as flexible as your bank. So you can't have a shit ton of discrepancies on your bank account, on your PayPal account. But PayPal is a little bit more cooperative than Stripe or Stride. And with the online banking platform, you can actually see your money on your PayPal account by touching a bioprint on your phone. They got a lot of people right now not even using bank cards because most people with an iPhone don't even have a phone case on it, and have their NFC access on it, which allows people to clear them out. Those people have Apple Pay. And Apple Pay typically has a digital copy of everybody's debit or credit card on there because most people will put their credit card information into their phone for an online purchase and then press yes to save it so that they don't have to go through the issue of typing it back in again. That also allows them, when they decide to go make a purchase, they can leave everything but their driver's license at home, touch the cash register with their cell phone, and they paid for it. It's convenient. But skimmers can be in the vicinity of your phone, copy your phone, and have all of your credit cards from your Apple Pay account. They could just be standing in line with you. They don't have to touch you. They don't have to touch your phone. They could just be standing in line with you with their card reader scamming machine in their pocket and your cell phone in your hand, and they can, while you're making a transaction, get the information anyway. How you doing, Horace? Good to see you, buddy. So, I mean, you're not going to really avoid a lot of scammers unless you're turning off your NFCs, undoing all of the auto pay with your cell phone, turning off and uninstalling and shutting down Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, any type of digital wallet. Just shut all of that stuff off on your phone so that they can't get anything off of your phone. If you do that, you keep yourself safe. But the more easily accessible your money is to you, the more easily accessible it is to somebody else. That's why I was talking to y'all yesterday about having like 200, 300 bank accounts. Who the fuck is going to take the time to try to take $50 out of 2,000 bank accounts? That's too much fucking work. They'll hit one and get $50. And as soon as that happens, you lock up all the rest of the accounts. They can't get to them. You know what I mean? The people who scam put the least amount, not the least amount of effort. They put a lot of effort into planning so that when they execute one time to maximize the impact on the most quantity of people and get out. That's it. So if they put a skimmer on a gas pump, it's only going to be there one day, maybe two, and as many of them as they can get, and then they're going to run off with it because it is not Bluetooth to somewhere else. It's going to be backed up on that system. They got to come and retrieve the data. You know, so you will see in a lot of situations that while there are scammers in a lot of different places, you can't guarantee, even if you go out to restaurants, you can't guarantee that the card that you're using is not going to get hit in the wrong way. When you give your debit or credit card to the waiter or waitress and they take the debit or credit card to the back, you don't know if they're copying your debit or credit card. You just assume that they're going to run it and bring it back. But if you are only spending cards that have restrictions on them, even if they did copy the card, there ain't nothing on there because you done already bought dinner with half of whatever was available on the balance. You do a $250 limit, y'all have an $85 dinner, they can't put that big of a tip on the fucking card. Instead of $70, talk about $700. Well, the card's got a $500 limit on it, so I mean, it can't really go that far. If it had a $250 limit and y'all spent $85, it can't go that far. And then it flags the whole transaction, and now they're not even getting paid for the restaurant meal itself. It protects you. It's inconvenient though, because if you have a $250 card in your pocket and the bill is $350, you got to use two cards. The safety is inconvenient, and that's why women don't follow instructions from men. In order for a man to be a protector, she has to follow instructions. She doesn't want to be told what to do, so he can't protect her. That turns into a problem. Now she doesn't value him because he's not protecting her, and she doesn't value herself, so he's not going to try to protect her. Now he doesn't have value in her because she's for the streets, and that's going to cause a relationship to fall apart. But if she wants to be protected by him, when he says sit down and shut up, she sit down and shut up. When he says go get the car, she goes and gets the car. When he says go make us some coffee, she gets up and go makes us some coffee. Because him telling her that is a polite way of saying get out of this room right now. Can you make us a cup of coffee? That's it. Oh, I ain't your servant, blase squazzy. But think about this. If I'm about to bust this man in the mouth and I need you out of my way, go make us a cup of coffee, put you in the kitchen where the knives are. So if I need some backup, you got like a whole kitchen set in there to back me up. But if I tell you go get some coffee, like, make your own fucking coffee. You grown. How the hell do I get you out of the middle of what's about to go down? You know? No, I'm not. So Horace is asking, are you an advocate for traditional gender roles in heterosexual relationships? No, I'm not. I am an advocate for being responsible about yourself and then being respectful towards your partner. And I'm an advocate of you taking first person accountability for your own expectations. So in a heterosexual relationship, when you think about traditional and non-traditional gender roles, you're looking at the unclear expectations of women that put the responsibility of the traditional roles on the masculine men when it benefits the women, and then takes away that authority from the men when the woman wants to be in control and in charge. It interferes with neutrality. It interferes with uniformity because she's the boss until somebody's got to get shot. She's the boss until something's got to get paid for. She's in charge until the shit hits the fan. And then it's the man's job to fix it. We're supposed to make decisions equally, but if we're equal and we don't agree, how do you balance that? Because if one says yes and one says no, and if we don't agree, we don't do it, then the no wins every time. If one says yes and one says no, and we're going to do it anyway, the yes wins every time. If the person who pays the most money into the relationship has the final say, which is traditional gender roles, then women want to put up 50% so that they have an equal say in the relationship. But they're not going to be equally responsible of taking that bullet. They're not going to be equally responsible of going to jail for getting into that fight. They're not going to be equally responsible for repairing the car when it gets totaled. So I'm not advocating for traditional gender roles in heterosexual relationships. I'm advocating for uniformity. And uniformity dictates that it should always operate the same way, regardless of whether or not the man is in the position or the woman is in the position. Now, from a masculine man's perspective, Sigma mentality, not even an alpha mentality. There is a reasonable quantity of balance that can be had in a relationship, but it is not going to be 50-50. I said it before. It's going to be 70-40, or well, 70-30, 60-40, or 55-45. One person is going to do more in certain situations than the other, and the other person is going to do more in different situations than the first person. But there's never going to be the exact same quantity of effort in every single thing. There's never going to be an equal reciprocation from every single thing. One person might give more gifts than the other. One person might save more money than the other. One person might remember more special occasions than the other. One might take days off and rearrange their schedule more often than the other. One person is going to love the other person more. One person is going to be sick of this shit faster. They are not the same. One person is going to quit first. They're not the same. Resentment will develop in the person that is getting the least expectations out of the relationship, regardless of whether or not the performance is there. One person out of the two of them is going to harbor resentment because they're getting the least of their expectations out of the relationship. And it is not judged based on you get whatever you want and I don't get what I want. It is simply that I don't get enough of the things that I expect to get, and now I am pissed off. That is going to be the behavior. It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman doing it. That is going to be the behavior of one of the people in the relationship that starts that meltdown. And when it comes to money, what I'm talking about today is one of the ways that you can reduce that, not completely eliminate it, because you don't have to have a fallout over money. You can have a fallout over sexual affairs, but you can also have a fallout over emotional affairs, because women cheat emotionally more than men cheat physically. But with relationships falling apart over infidelity and finance, that's more than 80% of the reason why people break up outside of their relationships from convenience. There's very few relationships where the man is abusive in comparison to infidelity and financial problems. And the abusive women, the men tolerate it. The men tolerate the physical abuse from women. The men tolerate the emotional abuse from women. There is very little, if any, tolerance of emotional abuse from men or physical abuse from men. It is widely shunned. That is the difference. So as a result, advocating for traditional gender roles in heterosexual relationships is illogical. Advocating for reasonable involvement and reasonable negotiation and reasonable exchange makes more sense. Yes, lesbians have the highest percentage of domestic violence in any relationship, gay relationship and heterosexual relationships. Lesbian relationships has the highest volume of divorces, highest volume of separations than any relationships. homosexual relationships have the lowest of everything, because two men can communicate and get along, and anything that's got a woman involved does not have the quality of cooperation and compromise. But that doesn't change the fact that in every relationship, be it a heterosexual or homosexual relationship, you can reduce and minimize the quantity of chaos you have in your relationship by adding more communication, deliberation, discussion, and gaining insight from both sides of the relationship, instead of one person dictating terms and the other person following instructions. So even if, as a masculine heterosexual man that is familiar with traditional roles, I would expect a woman to be obedient in my relationship. Doesn't mean that I'm going to always dictate terms and always take control and always be in charge. What it means is that when I do step up and say I need you to do something, that you're not going to argue with me, talk back to me, or devalue me or degrade me because I told you to go do something. If the first time, if I give you an instruction once a month and give you a request twice a month, and then ask your opinion 3 times a month, the one time a month that I tell you go do something, don't talk back, because I will explain it later. And that's something that women don't understand, that there are some situations where we can talk about it ahead of time. There's some situations where we got to act now and then talk about it later, where we can formulate a plan on how to fix this. The first time your house burned down or catch on fire, you don't really know what to do. You're just putting the fire out. But after a house catches on fire, you start looking at all the exits. You start cleaning up in other areas so that you have better ways to get out of the house. You start formulating a plan for if this happens again. People have spare tires in their car because the last time you got a flat, you didn't have a spare. Now you got a spare. People who have multiple flat tires because their girlfriend is slashing their tires got a whole set of rims in the garage because they're used to having 4 flats at the same time. If you know that relationships are falling apart due to talks about money, you plan a relationship that is structured around talks about money. Puts a stop to it. Now I'm not fussing at you about that Amazon payment. Now I'm not fussing at you about that Chanel collection you talked about. We are discussing how we're going to function in our relationship while you're getting your hair, nails, and Chanel subscriptions. Because if we, like I said before, when I was telling Michael about the portional investment into the relationship, if she's got $1,000 a month and I've got $1,000 a month, and she take her 1,000 and put it on her looks and her makeup and her colognes or perfumes or whatever the case may be, then you do what you want to do. Now, if I take my $1,000 a month and I invest it into brokerage accounts, if we break up, I'm putting away $12,000 a year. I could have made it to $125,000 in 5 or 10 years. She will leave the relationship broke as fuck, but I will not be. And we would have it listed in that girlfriend contract that the brokerage account, the solo brokerage accounts, are not impacted on the separation. Your $1,000 is your $1,000. My brokerage account that I'm putting my $1,000 into is my $1,000. This is another reason why the contract is the way it is, which allows you to have more ability to be responsible. If you do 50-50 and you got $4,000 worth of stuff, and I'm gonna put up 2,000, you're gonna put up 2,000, but my check is 3,500 and your check is 2,500. You've only got 500 in your pocket, and I got 1,500 in my pocket. That's not fair. That's not balance. The balance comes from reasonable distribution. The cornerstone of all of this is going to be the cohabitation agreements. And this is what's really important for y'all. And that's why I told y'all it's a bonus. This is a legal contract that outlines the rights and responsibilities of each partner, almost equivalently like a prenup for unmarried couples, which is the pre-stages to an actual prenuptial agreement. Because if you have your cohabitation agreement or your girlfriend contract that starts off when y'all first start dating, and then that contract rolls over into the fiance contract, which has terms and conditions of who's paying for the marriage, who's paying for the engagement ring, this, that, and the third. Investment opportunities. Because in your fiance contract, if in the event that we get engaged, if I pay for the ring and you leave, you got to give the ring back. If I pay for the wedding and you divorce me, you've got to reimburse me for the wedding. That kind of shit in the fiance contract. If I spend $150,000 on this marriage, you breached the marriage by divorcing me. You must reimburse me the $150,000 from the marriage, from the marriage ceremony. You got to talk to a lawyer and see how well that can be worded in a structuralized agreement. But you start setting these dynamics up, you're not going to have those bad girls clubs running up there talking about some, I ain't signing no prenup. Well, shit, you ain't getting married. Because you would have signed the contract with me from the beginning. You would have signed a girlfriend contract from the beginning. Then after you sign a girlfriend contract from the beginning, you're going to follow that. Every now and again, we're going to be making adjustments on this girlfriend contract, and we're going to follow that with a fiance contract. Then we're going to follow that with a marriage contract that leads to a full-on prenuptial agreement. And you're talking about the prequel. Your fiance contract is a contract that's agreeing that the proposal will happen after the ring is purchased, and the wedding efforts will be facilitated. Any reservations that are set, because this is all pre-marriage stuff. If the marriage doesn't happen before the I do's and all of this prep stuff occurs, and you end up leaving me on the altar, that fiance contract requires you to reimburse me for the whole fucking ceremony. Like this is the kind of stuff that kind of makes motherfuckers think, do I really want to marry him, or do I really want him to not spend $150,000 because I don't got that to reimburse it? And even putting it in writing that you're agreeing to seizing of assets and garnish of wages for guaranteed reimbursement. That makes it easier to execute it in court. Because if y'all agree to it, signed by a notary, it's actionable, right? It prevents you from wasting your time on stuff that is not going to last. And it makes the other person really think about their own accountability. How much do they really want to be involved in this? Because if they're going to be liable on their fallout, this contract ain't contingent to whether or not y'all cheat on one another. In the condition that you bail out for whatever reason, you must reimburse for expenses. Do you really want to leave? Yes or no? Because whatever you can get your lawyer to sue me for is going to be minus what you owe me as the reimbursement. You understand? Now, a good agreement should be drafted with a lawyer and should cover a few key areas. Now, I'm going to tell y'all that for anybody that's in the membership, if y'all want a copy, I've got a couple drafts that are very interesting for y'all to look at. One for those of you that are renting, and one for those of you that own properties. And if y'all are living in the house and one of y'all are paying the rent, the other one's not, these things are very important because it does make a big difference. Likewise, there's another one that I could be generating now that I'm thinking about it, because I was talking about the fiance thing with the marriage conditions. If you start adding the cost of the wedding and the cost of the engagement ring and cost of the engagement party and baby showers and all of this other stuff that you're talking about, life-changing scenarios and the cost of these life-changing scenarios, all of this stuff can be calculated into step-by-step deviations of responsibilities and investments. And then if a separation occurs, any agreed on the contract stipulations of separation, separating the baby clothes, who gets the dog, all this, that, and the other, ends up making it easier to part. See what I'm saying? You don't want to break up, but the goal is that y'all make it clear that if we break up, this is what's going to happen. Stephen says, if this message would have made it to all the divorced men who lost it all, I know a lot of them would have been life-changing I'm fortunate to hear it while I'm still single. And look, I am the only non-attorney man talking about this right now. And before me and Mr. Pibbs was talking about this 2 years ago, no man was ever talking about a girlfriend contract or a cohabitation contract with your financial partner, with your romantic partner, because it is the man's responsibility to pay for everything. So the women can do whatever they want with their money. They don't even have to contribute to the situation. The man must contribute to the situation and make sure that everything is paid for, even if she doesn't help with it. But we risk, if she's not satisfied, that she will take half of everything that's there, even though she didn't contribute to none of it. And she may even still stick us with alimony and child support, taking whatever else she can get after she's gone. And in some situations, she may even try to ruin the man's reputation, making it harder for him to gain capital after she's gone. To, like I said before, mine that gold mine until there's almost nothing left, and then leave and blow up the mine so that no other woman can come and benefit from that same gold mine. That's how some women behave. But if you start off from before y'all move into one another, start pulling y'all resources together, and start off with this cohabitation contract or girlfriend contract, you will see that they're not going to be able to fuck you like that. They're agreeing to a notarized contract that you would then scan it, turn it into a PDF. Both parties got a copy in their emails. Both parties can have a physical copy with whatever lawyer that's going to represent them if the situation falls apart. You got protection. And it prevents you from being asked out. And it doesn't matter if you guys are together for 2 years or 20 years. Every so often, every 6 months, every year, you want to renew this contract, revisit this contract, and make the appropriate changes that y'all agree on, where y'all might have bought a new car in a relationship and decide that this car is going to go to her. Now, when you start reassessing new assets that's coming to the relationship, you do asset distribution, which allows for, in the midst of a separation, that car is hers. But so is the notes. I'm paying for it while we're together, but that car is hers. So if she takes the car, she takes over the payments. Now, if I'm keeping the payments, I'm keeping the car. This is the scenarios that we have. These are the benefits. People don't see these benefits until they come to this podcast. He said, "What traits about you would you describe as masculine?" That's not even really debatable in today's show, because today we're not talking about me as a person. Today we're talking about how couples can come together and actually build a stable relationship that allows them to be able to um, build wealth with one another, pay off their debts, and make themselves more financially successful together. And talking about situations like establishing cohabitation contracts, because not all states have common law marriage laws, and the states that have common law marriage usually kick in somewhere around 10 years or so of living together. The states that don't have common law marriage, like Florida, y'all can be together for 20 years and nothing is going to help y'all with the deviation of assets. And whichever person decides to leave in the dead of night can pack up all of their stuff. And because it's considered community property, because y'all live together, they can take everything out of the house and leave you nothing, not even a sleeping bag, and clean the house out while you're at work. And when you come back, your house is empty, like you just moved in. And they can take all of your stuff and all of their stuff, and there's nothing that the police can do about it, because y'all share everything in the house, because there's no documents anywhere that assigns anything to anyone. And that's a wild scenario that not a lot of people think about until after she left him. So I respect your question, but that's not a Saturday night question. If it was appropriate for a Sunday night question, today's not Sunday. Now, asset and debts. The agreement should clearly state what separates the property. And After you decide what properties are separate, what properties are shared, then it needs to be defined who is responsible for the debts that are related to those properties. Both of those are brought into the relationship and those acquired together. So you need to have one list that was brought in by each person and then one list that was acquired by the two of y'all. And that also means that when you change uh, this dynamic going into the relationship, anything that you acquired by yourself in the relationship needs to be added to the list of things that you bought for yourself. And anything that you acquired in the relationship for your partner needs to be added to the list of things that they have sole control over, which also makes it easier upon a separation. Um, he says, well, you had said twice that you were masculine. So for this stream, yeah, I can say that that's has nothing to do with the fact that we're talking about finances. So that is why I asked. Oh, well, that's why I clarified that that's not appropriate for today's discussion. But nonetheless, let's continue. Oh no, we're gonna continue. I can identify myself as a masculine man with all of the reasons why I identify as a masculine man, and I'm still not going to entertain the question because today we're talking about financial cohabitation. And from the observation and perspective of a masculine man, my ability to tell you that even in a traditional relationship or in a non-traditional relationship, there are certain expectations that masculine and non-masculine men have, and certain expectations that masculine women and non-masculine women have. And after we've just finished talking about lesbians and gays and their expectations of being successful with one another based on the divorce rate, the separation rate, the fact is that less arguments happen in relationships when they work together. And that's why I told you that you should not confuse today's show, which is focusing on how people work together in relationships, with Sunday night's show with asking appropriate questions that aren't themed to the show's topic. So if you're going to ask a question on the show, like the rest of the guys have been talking about today on the show, their information has been directly related to today's topic. Your information is not related to today's topic. That's why I had to make it clarified with you. He said, okay, so don't act confused. When I asked a question, it is something outlandish question. No, it is an outlandish question because asking me if I am personally a masculine man is an outlandish question when I'm telling you from the perspective of a man or a masculine man that this is what I see and this is what I observe and this is what a lot of masculine men experience. You're asking, well, what defines a masculine man or what do I define myself as a masculine man? Uh, you're inadvertently attempting to attack the messenger when we're delivering a message, which actually makes it inappropriate. So again, if you want to know what a masculine man looks like and you want to talk about what should a masculine man be identified by, save it for Sunday. But if you're going to chime into the night show, you're going to chime into the night show about where we are right now in the show, which is contractual relationships. I don't really take it as bickering. I understand that one of your accounts that you had got blocked from us. So, the fact that you showed back up, I appreciate it. And I respect the fact that you are not super trolling the podcast the way you used to. So we're good. But I'm just letting you know that there's a time and a place for everything. And you gotta tighten up. Uh I didn't ask what a masculine man looks like. Okay, that's fine. So far, you're on the fence. Now, we're going to talk about sharing living expenses. It should formalize how you split the household expenses. I'm going to tell you 50-50 should not be the thing. But if you're going to be running on 50-50, that's up to you. I believe that you should be operating on proportional incomes, but you need to write down that particular dynamic. When you put it in writing, it avoids future financial arguments. The quantity of information that you're going to put in this document prevents you guys from being under the assumption that so-and-so is going to do. And that's going to make it perfectly clear down the line. Say, for example, if you lose your job or you're about to lose your job, you guys reassess the arrangement. You guys renew your contracts and come to understand that your partner might cover 100% of the expenses for a certain period of time. And then you still have to find a way to produce if there's going to be reimbursements involved or extended compensations in order to offset. All of these things are discussed. So if you decide that I'm going to stop going to work so that I can go to college to make something out of myself for 2 to 4 years out of this relationship, because I paid for your college education for 2 to 4 years in the relationship, now you're going to work and take care of me the way I work to take care of you. That allows for us to have this understanding. 4 months in, you're pissed off that these bills are hard. I knew they were hard when I were handling them by myself. Now that you're handling them by yourself, this was our arrangement. We can't argue about money because you signed a contract. Now, joint properties. If you own a property together, the agreement needs to specify what happens if you guys separate. Does one person have the right to buy the house from the other person? How would that price be decided? Now, not too many men ever think about this. So, Stephen, make note. You got a house, you and your wife bought it together. If you had this kind of contract, if she wants the house, since y'all both have 50% equity into the house, she must buy out your half of the house. So let's say y'all got the house on a mortgage. Y'all are 50-50 equity in the house. Let's say the house is $500,000. Let's say y'all put up about $175,000 on the house so far. Out of that $175,000, each one of you should be entitled to something close to $75,000 or $78,000 of the $177,000 that's been invested into the house, or probably closer to like $80,000, $85,000 worth of whatever went into the house. Right now, what that means is, even though this is a $500,000 house, it's probably still got $300-some-thousand worth of mortgage left to be paid on it. In order for her to seize the house from him, she's got to give him $85,000 or $89,000, whatever the case may be. Whatever the equity is in the house, she would have to give him half of it in order to buy him out of the house. Now, if men did this in the contract, it would be so much easier, because if you've got $200,000 in the house of equity and 50% of that is yours, she's got to give you $100,000 to take the house. That gives you $100,000 to put on your own house. You do not have to start over from scratch. You can simply just go buy you another house. And if the house is becoming hers exclusively, you can contact the mortgage company, notify that the agreement needs to be modified, that she's responsible for the debt. Whatever needs to be done as far as that is concerned, or foreclose on the house, because that's what a lot of families do when they get a divorce. They foreclose on the house and sell it for the remaining balances on the house. But again, that's the other issue, because if you sell the house for what you owe the bank, there isn't any money to divide between the two of you. You sell the house back to the bank plus his half of the equity, or he keeps the house and does the same, or y'all live in that bitch together. She could live in the house and make monthly payments to him up to the $80,000 worth of equity that he owed, that he was entitled to in the house when the separation occurred. And if she's got to pay him the equity on the house in monthly payments, that turns into a pseudo alimony payment, because now she's paying him $2,000 a month or $3,000 a month for this house. Now, keep in mind, if there's $175,000 in the house or $200,000 in the house, she can always take out a second mortgage in the house for 50% of the value of the equity in the house, which would allow her to give him his $80,000 to buy him out, and then she pays for the house herself, assuming her credit is good. But if that happened, he would have enough money to go and buy his own house. So now he doesn't lose the house and got to live out of his car. If y'all had this conversation at the beginning, it would have been better for you, right? Then when you start talking about the separation plan, you're talking about the separation plan before y'all move in or right after y'all move in, and y'all are updating the separation plan before y'all get married. Y'all are updating the separation plan after y'all get married. And it's tough the first time, but it's very important. It's easy every time after that. Because after the second or third time that you've updated this contract, after the fifth or ninth or 10th time that you've updated this contract, if you update the contract every year, it becomes so religiously required in a relationship that second nature, she's not going to think about the separation clause. But she will be acceptive of the separation clause, right? The agreement should outline what happens if you break up, including how jointly owned property will be divided, and whether one person might provide temporary financial support to the other person if that ends up happening. Having this type of plan avoids a messy, expensive court battle later because y'all got a contract. If you're going to get out and I'm going to give you 3 months worth of subsidy to help you get on your feet, that's all you get. So those ladies that think, oh, I'm going to get alimony for the rest of my life. If it ain't in this fucking contract, no, you're not. And if you've got this contract before the marriage and another contract during the fiance phase before the marriage and another contract with the prenup, where the only termination of the contract that exists that typically causes the contract to fall through is either withholding assets that nullifies the contract, or infidelity, or in some contracts, injury, deliberate and intentional bodily harm. If the contract itself fails, it's only going to fail because you have certain contingencies that you actually take on. You've got a prenup that is faulted from affairs, then you have an affair. You have a prenup that's faulted on bodily injury, then you beat your partner. You have a prenup that's faulted on some stupid shit, and then you do the stupid shit. But if your documents are non-conditional, non-modifiable, no exceptions, that if you leave, you are only leaving with what is identified in this document. There is no clause that nullifies this document. You can't take shit that you didn't agree to. And that gives you an ironclad prenuptial background, because your prenup should reinforce every other agreement that you had. And that allows for the ability to maintain exclusivity. Beyond the cohabitation agreements, every unmarried couple needs these essential documents. Hold on a second. He says, I apologize for trolling in the fall. I am not trying to behave like that now. I'm going forward. That's okay. That's why I didn't block you. I understand. I appreciate you being here. I understand that you will learn stuff from this show if you hang out long enough. We've been here for 3 hours, and you've been here for at least the last hour. So, I'm not going to intentionally be mean to you or disrespectful to you, but one of the habits that we have is that people who do troll come into the podcast because the show is this, that, and everything in between, that they're going to ask a completely left field question that derails us from the primary important topic. And a lot of the people that has come to the show has made it clear that they would prefer that we stay on topic. So if a question completely deviates from the main topic, it is more appropriate for me to stop that question and defer that question for Sunday, when you can ask whatever the hell you want. And then after that, on the days where we have our topics that are themed, that your questions or comments are strategically themed for specifically exactly what we're talking about. So if you go back through the comment section, Michael and Steven have both been, all of their replies and comments have been directly related to exactly what we're talking about. So it's been quite a few, I want to say 2 or 3 months now, that I have been reinforcing that random comments in the comment section are not going to be rejected, but they're going to be reserved for Sunday night, because Sunday night is questions and comments for the fans. But every other day out of the week, whatever we're talking about, that's what the questions and comments are going to be about. So you got a left field question about stem cell research, save it for Sunday. You want to know about masculine man? Tomorrow's Sunday. You don't even got to wait that long. You know, you might would have felt pissed off on Monday to say, oh, well, he's going to make me wait till Sunday. But today's Saturday. So you really only got 24 hours. And be like, hey, remember yesterday? What's up with the masculine man question? We can talk about it on Sunday. But I reserve Sunday for y'all specifically so that the outrageous questions can be addressed on Sunday. That takes it out of your system so that the rest of the week we can focus on learning stuff. Because I want all the men that come to the show and the women that come to the show to benefit from the show. We're not having drag out, brawl out arguments. We're not insulting each other. We're not devaluing each other. We're actually learning how to find ways to make ourselves better. We can build a 20-year plan so that our goal is that by the time we hit that 20-year, we could, if we wanted to, quit our jobs and not have to work no more for the rest of our life and still make money. You know what I mean? That's what we want to do. Is there any topics off limits for questions tomorrow? Inappropriate, derogatory, defamatory, insulting comments, any kind of comment that would cause somebody to flip a table or start a fight, any comments that could cause you to get banned from YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, any kind of comment that will cause you to get arrested, any kind of comment that would make somebody go home and cry. You know, it's still got to be an appropriate question. It's still got to be an appropriate question, appropriately structured. So what do I think a masculine man question is an appropriate question for Sunday, just not an appropriate question for today. So, I've got people that come in here and start having Jesus questions come up there, and I have people come up and get blocked for that. But I have some that come up with Jesus questions, and we actually entertain them, because the ones that are insulting about it, I block those guys. The people who come up and try to identify me as a homosexual or a supporter of the homosexual movement, I block those guys, because while I have no problem with homosexuality, that's not how I represent myself. And anybody who throws me into a group that I didn't volunteer to be in, I block those guys. So if the question is inappropriate, they get blocked the first time. But if the question is appropriate, even if I ignore the question, I'm not going to block them. So like when you asked the question, I didn't entertain it, but I'm not going to block you for it, because it is a valid question, just not for today. So I'm not going to be an asshole and just fuck this guy and block him. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. But at the same time, I am getting better about having more structure with the show, because I believe that more people that's going to come is going to benefit from what we're doing if we stay more organized, if that makes sense. Now, as I told y'all before, one of the things that everybody's got to start doing, a will. Without a will, if one of you passes away, your assets will likely go to the legal next of kin, not your romantic partner. Specifically, it's going to end up going to, if you don't have any children, it's likely to go to your parents. It's going to go to your siblings. So if you and your romantic partner are building a life together, y'all aren't married yet, one of you dies, your family will come and take all your shit from your partner. That's not what you want. You have to create it's what we call a living will. You ain't got to have shit in your living will. Your living will can start off with a notarized document that says everything I own go to her if I die. That's it. But down the line, you can really stop and think about, like, do you really want to give something to your cousin? Do you really want to give something to your auntie and them? Do you want to leave a little bit for some of the kids? Whatever the case may be, you can create these. At first, no. So to execute the will from a third party, that's going to have a price. However, a living will can simply be a document. It could be on a piece of loose leaf paper where you write your name down and everything that you want to have happen. And then you sign that document with a notary, and then take that document, make a copy of it, and that copy, give it to your partner. And your partner can take that copy and give it to a judge. And that shows that everything in here belongs to me because when he was healthy, that's what he wrote down. And that doesn't cost you nothing but the $10 for the notary. But if you want to have an estate attorney, that's like $350 an hour for an estate attorney. You're likely paying for 2 hours, 1 hour for them to first take the contract and 1 hour for them to handle the distribution of assets. But when you first start off and all you got is your clothes, your dog, your car, you don't really got that much stuff, but you do got a little bit of money in the bank account, a couple stocks somewhere. You want to make sure that you write down who gets that. That prevents any unexpected, because we're in our 30s and 40s. We expect to be here 40 more years, but I could die tomorrow. So if it's not written down, all of my assets will go to a next of kin. I got a lot of kin. I got a father. I got, sisters and brothers. I got people everywhere. So if they're going to fight about it, then if I don't have it written down, that's when probate happens. Who's entitled to it the most? Right? So it's better for you to get that. And your will, actually, your living will can be incorporated with your relationship contract. Because in accordance with the living will, the relationship contract can have a clause that if you separate before death, that you are not entitled to anything in the living will after death. That also protects your assets if you fail to update your living will. You have a contract that exists before that, or you can have it in your living will, and it is partnering with what's said in the cohabitation contract, that if y'all break up before you pass away, that the assets in the living will go to somebody else, that your ex will not receive anything out of the will. Now, when you ain't got shit, this is cheap to do. When you start gaining assets, it's going to be a little bit harder to maintain and update. However, when you have assets, it's going to be way more important. It's going to be way more important because the more assets you have, the more resources you have, the more likely somebody's going to either linger around you until you die or be the cause of your death. So certain things in your will, like if my death was not accidental, all of my assets go to a charity. That way nobody gets it. I don't know which one of y'all killed me, but whoever did it, nobody's getting nothing now. Which prevents them from deliberately taking your life, because they would be the sole beneficiary of the assets. All it has to say is that if it is proven that at any point that my asset, that my life was not lost by a straight accident, that it was deliberate. It doesn't matter who did it. If it was deliberate, that nobody gets anything. That keeps you from being knocked off by anybody who's entitled to get something from you out of your will. It doesn't stop you from being knocked off. It just stops them from knocking you off. I mean, yeah, you can find the diabolical partner that's going to make it look like an accident, but you need to be, with all of these contracts that you're going out with, you need to be trying to find the kind of partner that is going to be one that you can literally trust. So you both need a will, and that will needs to be explicitly naming the other person as a beneficiary for whatever assets that you want them to have, and then exclude them if you separate. Then you have a durable power of attorney for finances. And this is going to be a document that allows your partner to make financial decisions on your behalf if you become incapacitated and cannot make decisions for yourself. Now, this typically only happens when you know for a fact that you have the type of partner that will not incapacitate you. Okay? Now, until you know that you have the kind of partner that will not incapacitate you, your durable power of attorney might be your next of kin. So your girlfriend or your husband might not have shit to say if your health goes bad his brother or her sister might be the one to dictate terms, because that way you can prove that your partner wasn't responsible for this. Because again, if we part, you won't get nothing. But if I'm in a coma, you get to spend all of my assets. You know what? Instead, I will make sure that my kinfolk has power of attorney over my money, and you might have authority over my health. So you don't get the money until I die, if I died from natural causes. Again, these clauses, as wild as they sound and as complicated as it makes the contracts be, it minimizes negative and deceitful behavior from your romantic partner. Then you want to have advanced directives for healthcare. And you want to update this document regularly. Again, this is going to let your partner make medical decisions for you. Now, you might have made your financial power of attorney a relative, but you might make your romantic partner responsible for your health. You can do both of those. You don't have to put everything on your partner's plate, right? You can spread responsibility around, because that allows for checks and balances. If you got a family member that y'all don't get along, but that family member is financially responsible, and they will make sure that you don't get fucked over, especially if they're named in the will. They'll make sure that you don't get fucked over. If she's going to have unnecessary medical bills, she got to go talk to your family members and make sure that she get paid for. They got to work together, because if they don't work together, you're going to die. And then nobody get nothing. Right? And that could be written in the will too, that if I die because y'all couldn't get along, y'all don't get shit. Motivation develops cooperation. Without these documents, doctors might only consult your legal family members, shutting your partner out of critical decision making in life or death decisions. You also putting certain things in there, like whether or not you are allowed to be resuscitated, or if there's a do not resuscitate clause in your health. That is a huge difference, because you might be going through a depression phase and feel like you don't want to be resuscitated, and then you find a woman of your dreams or the man of your dreams, and now you want to be resuscitated. You got to check these documents over and make sure and double check. And you want to make sure that your health advocate documents are with your medical providers, the most of the medical providers that you go to on a regular basis, emergency room that you frequent, have it in your medical file, have it with your family members that you know will show up if something happens to you, and then have it with your romantic partner, so that everybody knows that in case something happens, this is who's in charge, and this is whether or not you should resuscitate me, whether or not you should pull the plug. You know what I mean? And putting these protections in place isn't something that happens in a weekend. It requires thoughtful conversation, legal advice. You're probably going to have to start paying at $350 an hour consultations somewhere through here, but you should have this shit under wraps before y'all get married. These are the conversations y'all should be having as fiancés. But it's one of the most important things that you can do to build a secure life together. So let's bring it back, because if you're a couple feeling trapped in the financial stress of things, the way out isn't about finding a perfect budget or just wishing for more money or leaving your broke ass partner and dating somebody that got more wealth. It's about taking deliberate, prioritized actions together, working together as a team. Now, throughout the last 3.5 hours, we've laid out 3-step plans. First, the financial triage, where you stop the chaos and build unified systems to manage your cash flow. Second, the stability fund sprint, where you build that $1,000 buffer to protect your assets and yourself from life's small emergencies until you're able to build that full-on 3 to 6 month emergency fund. And third, the debt demolition plan, where you launch the strategic attack to finally free up your income to work for you instead of you working for your debt. This is more than a money plan. It is a relationship plan. It's about replacing conflict with clarity and teamwork. When we went into the companionship agreements, the cohabitation agreements, the girlfriend contracts, we're talking about all of the ways that y'all can protect your assets, protecting her assets if she makes more money and has more stuff than you, protecting your assets if you make more money and have more stuff than her. This protects y'all because and I'm adding a lot more complications to it than you think, because when you start talking about reimburse for the $10,000 engagement ring and reimburse for the $100,000 wedding, even on the divorce, you're looking at like not taking that capital loss. She can't make the ring disappear. This is how much the ring cost, and upon separation, you must return the ring or the equivalent monetary value of the ring the day of purchase. That is a very huge clause. So either you're going to give me back the devalued ring as it is, or you're going to give me back the monetary value of the ring when I purchased it, the day that I purchased it. That makes a huge difference 15 years into a marriage, because your $10,000 ring might be worth $5,000 10 years down the line. But if you don't give me back the ring, if you went and pawned it because you were pissed off, if you threw it in a river because you was pissed off, you got to give me back the $10,000 I paid for it when I bought it. You're eliminating and reducing the bullshit at the end of the relationship. And you're eliminating and reducing plans for unnecessary bullshit in the beginning of the relationship. If you've got your stuff under control from day one, whether you're the man of the house or the woman of the house, you are eliminating the type of behavior that has to be pre-treated throughout the relationship. It stops bad habits from forming, that then requires you to proactively micromanage the refusal to stop those bad habits halfway through the relationship. Making these contractual agreements in the beginning of the relationship prevents I'm going to fix you behavior down the line. So, for example, your car, you got girlfriends these days that like to get revenge on her man by destroying a car because we broke up, he cheated on me, blah, blah, blah. In your contractual agreement, that if she damages the car beyond repair, that she buys the car at market value. So, when y'all separate, she decides to burn your clothes, she's got to repay the clothes market value of what it would have been like brand new. If you were putting into your contract consequences for negative destructive behavior, reparations that are listed in the contract are liable, because if you destroyed my property, you are agreeing to reimburse me this amount of money for the destruction of my property. That is actionable in court. You just got to refine it with a qualified lawyer. And to be fair, it would be better done with a divorce lawyer. Even though you're not in a marriage, it would be better done with a divorce lawyer, because it's going to probably be handled in family court. The separation of assets is handled in a civil court and sometimes handled in a family court. So you will likely be more successful catching all of this stuff in the beginning. Toxic behavior, selling off everything and then dipping out. You are legally obligated to reimburse for these things. It's going to be about replacing conflict with clarity and teamwork. The clarity of honesty, the clarity of trust, the clarity of the loyalty and dedication you will have with one another, and then the clarity of when things no longer are convenient and when things no longer work out between the two of you. As adults, you have agreed in advance that you will appropriately separate in a respectful and responsible fashion, and with all of the contingencies for destructive behavior. If you don't, you have a higher financial expense that could lead to you walking away with nothing and owing on your way out the door because you decided to be petty and destroy stuff on your way out or take stuff that you wasn't supposed to take. It's going to also be about scheduling those money talks and learning to fight for the same future, not fight with one another as one group, as partners, as a cohesive unit. And for many of you, this is going to mean taking that crucial step of putting legal protection in place to make sure that both of you are secured, because you got to protect yourself as well as the other person. The journey from surviving to stability isn't always easy or quick, and there will be a lot of setbacks. But by following this relentless, ruthless, prioritized framework, you are giving yourselves the best possible chance to win. He said, is it impossible to get a divorce if one party in a marriage refuses? No, it's not impossible, but it is excessively difficult. So in a divorce, if you want out, you have the capabilities to get out. The only problem is that you must first serve the other person to go to court. And if they dodge service, it delays the legal action. However, once they've been officially served, they can refuse to show up and the judgment will be in their absence. Now, what people are dealing with marriages right now is they want a free and clear marriage, which requires the least amount of financial effort to put into the court. And it's like one day in court, hammer drop. The only way that happens is if I want a divorce and you agree to give me the divorce, then the divorce is instantaneous. But if I don't want to give you divorce and you want the divorce, you have to convince the judge to breach the marriage arrangement. Because the marriage was done, it doesn't matter if it was done in the church under the eyes of the Lord. The marriage was done as a legal binding financial contract between two parties under the jurisdiction of the city and state that they were married in. And it can be terminated under the legal jurisdiction of whatever city and state that they're in when they want the divorce. But if you, just like you want to sue me for financial reimbursement for a deal that I don't want to pay you for, you have to basically file legal action against me to divorce me. So you're not trapped in a marriage, and they have no fault divorces now. Back in the day, back in the 1900s, 1950s, 1940s, well, before 1950, like 1930s and 1860s, the only time that a woman was able to get a divorce was when the man was abusive or if he was considered abandoned the marriage. And abandoned the marriage would constitute him leaving the house and being gone for over a year and not being found. And that did not include him going to war. So if he never came back, she couldn't divorce him because you couldn't serve him. He's off at war. You can't divorce him. You're just separated for the rest of your life. You're married but separated. After I think 1951, they came out with the no fault divorce. Nobody's got to do anything wrong. I can just divorce you for the sake of divorcing you. But the stipulations of divorce are still the same, that she can still get alimony, she can still get child support, she can still take half of the estate. She just no longer needs a reason to divorce you. So you can be the best husband a woman could ever have. Pay for everything. She doesn't have to work. You pay for the kids. You got the private schools. You got the nanny. You've got the gym coach. You've got the tennis coach. You've got the pool boy. And that's for her. That's not for the kids. Everything is there. But if she still wants out, she can divorce you and still take most of that and still make you pay for alimony. And she doesn't have to have a reason. Her excuse could be that you work too much to pay for all the shit that she benefits from. So she's emotionally abandoned because you're never at home to give her a hug because you're working 18 hours a day, 6 days a week. And on your one day off, you're with the kids. And she can still take everything. And that's why I'm telling y'all from day one, if y'all put these contracts out there, that shit's wild. And that's the reason why a lot of men are not getting married. That's why men are scared to get divorces. They say happy wife, happy life, because if she gets mad, she'll get the divorce. If I get mad, I'm gonna go drink some beers with my bros. I'm gonna go in the basement. I'm gonna go in the garage and go work on my car. She gets mad, she's getting a divorce and taking half of my shit. Men say it's cheaper to keep her because if I get rid of her, I got to give up half of what it took me my entire life to build. She did not build this. She just enjoyed this. And now she gets to take half of it because she was here watching me build this, talking about she helped by cussing me out and poking me in the back of the head and saying that I ain't shit. This is the type of behavior that leads men to not wanting to get into a second marriage. And some men avoid the first one. And that's why I tell y'all, if you start your relationship from the beginning of the relationship, standing on your respect, standing on mutual respect, standing on non-negotiable expectations for behavior, you are going to expect them to behave a certain way, or you are not going to stay with them. Now, if you're building these contracts with them, y'all are going to build wealth together. Y'all are going to build generational wealth together. You're going to be in a scenario where you're expecting your partner to stay the long haul. If they're not going to stay the long haul, you're going to have a division of assets. If y'all don't make it to the marriage, your division of assets is underprotected by the law. These types of contracts protect them. It's not about who cheated on who. It's about who gets what when y'all leave. Horace asked, who allocated or who allowed no fault divorce to become legal? Well, unfortunately, sir, I'm going to be honest with you. Men allowed it because back in the 50s, all the courts had men in it. Some man thought it was cute to change the law back when we didn't have women in law or in government. And some man decided it was a fantastic idea to take fault away from the man and allow a woman to leave without any reason. And when they did that crap, that allowed for the bad women to take abuse of the marriage scenario. Good women who would get divorced because their husband doesn't love them anymore. He's not here. He's got another girlfriend, but he still takes care of his financial responsibilities. He's not in love with me anymore. We see it. We don't have any problems. We don't bicker. We don't fuss. You know, we can just divorce just because. You have some people who stay together just because of the kids. We stopped loving each other when the child was 3. The child is 19 now. We don't need to stay together no more. We could just divorce. We grew apart 15 years ago. We could just divorce. So no fault divorces means that you don't gotta fight the court to get the divorce. And he ain't gotta beat your ass. He ain't gotta disappear and ride off into the sunset. Y'all can live together until the day she don't want to stay there. But now, the way the laws have become, women can just dip for whatever. It does. It really does incentivize divorce. It incentivizes divorce typically for the women because since the majority of women actually marry up, they date up, they date a man that's more successful than them, they marry a man that's more successful than them. Divorce is not gender specific, but divorce is designed that if the person with the higher income is paying for the standard of living of the person with the lower income, the divorce should not reduce the standard of living of the person with the lower income. So if we're living in the suburbs, I can afford the suburbs. You can afford the ghetto. If we divorce, I got to pay for your standard of living in the suburbs so that you don't go back to the ghetto. Well, bitch, if I found you in the ghetto and you couldn't last in the suburbs, you take your ass back to the ghetto. But that's not how divorce works. Divorce works is that if I find you in the ghetto and I bring you into the suburbs, I got to pay to keep you in the suburbs after we get a divorce. Because you was making 20,000 and I was making 60,000 or 80,000 and I brought you into my world and now you live in my lifestyle talking about something we even. How the fuck is we even? You making 30% of what I make. We're not even. But if we get divorced because I'm making 3 times more than you, then I got to give you a third of my income to subsidize your income so that you can stay in the same neighborhood that I'm in. That incentivizes divorces. It's terrible. It gets worse. When we start talking about going to get the women from the other countries, you got men passport bros that are flying to other countries. Is that a federal thing? Yes, it is across the United States. No fault divorces since I do believe 1951. I've covered this on the show quite a long time ago that the no fault divorces was a thing, and that's one of the reasons why I say that alpha boss ladies need to marry men that make less money than her. She's $100,000. He needs to be $55,000. So that when she divorces him, he's not put on alimony. Because there's only one time that a man will divorce his wife is when she's pregnant for another man. That's it. That's it. That's it. Some men will allow the woman to cheat on them. They'll allow the abuse. They'll allow everything, except when the baby's for somebody else. That's when he leaves. So she's really got to fuck up the marriage for the man to want the divorce. But women, it don't take much for a woman to divorce a man. Is that a federal thing? Yeah, so that's a federal thing, and it is a federal thing, but divorce court is handled on a state level. The federal thing is when it changed the laws across the United States to be no fault in all 50 states. That happened on the federal level, but it's done on a state level. Okay, he says based blacks keeping women in their place. No black man can keep a woman in her place, and no black man can keep a black woman in her place. First and foremost, no woman can be kept in her place. She decides to voluntarily stay where she is, and because she has no investments into this scenario besides physical effort, and women feel like physical effort is more valuable than the financial efforts of their counterparts, and that entitles them to financial reparations that are far above the hourly value of their physical effort. And they can leave with all of this extra money that they didn't earn, that they didn't contribute, and all of this extra stuff that they didn't earn and didn't contribute. And the most that they can account for what they're getting for is because they put up with your attitude. That's it. That's it. They're entitled to half of your estate and alimony and child support and the house and the car and the dog because they put up with your shit. That doesn't make any fucking sense. I am not renting you for your time. Riley theory. We're supposed to be in this together. So there's supposed to be equal contribution. So if there isn't equal contribution, you're supposed to get out of this relationship what you put into this relationship. If you put effort into this relationship, the effort it takes for you to get the fuck on, that's all you're taking with you is your effort. But if you put some skin in the game, you put some money on the table, you start investing in some shit, then you get back what you put in it. But you're not supposed to get more out of it than what you put into it. And that's why these contracts would benefit you a lot. But like I was about to say, the going to get the women from the other countries. You sign a contract with the United States government when you marry a partner. It doesn't matter if it's a male or a female. When you marry a partner from another country and you bring in that foreign agent to this country under a marriage scenario, you still got to pay the $20,000 a year for her to be in this country until she take her ass back home. So if she don't want to fly back to her home country, the 10, 15, 20 years for her to get her citizenship in the United States, you still got to give her 20 grand because you told the U.S. government that you would every year, plus whatever the fuck she gonna get off of alimony. So you got to make sure that if your relationship ain't going right, y'all break up in her home country and you take a one-way trip back home because one-way trip where you buying one ticket for yourself because this bullshit is not going to work out. Is if she cheats, she gone. Look, I know some men will. You say that now. You say that now. But in 20 years, in 40 years, there will be one affair between the two of you. If not 3 affairs where both of you have cheated at least once and one of you have cheated twice. It is impossible to truthfully say and stick with it that I will never cheat for any reason, specifically because in a relationship, you get comfortable with one another. Once you get comfortable with one another, you stop doing things that makes the other person feel validated and seen, heard, respected, and important. That absence leads to emotional distress. that person starts finding emotional validity outside of the relationship. When they find that, it leads to affairs. You have financial infidelity when somebody spends money in places they're not supposed to spend it, and that leads to affairs. When you're arguing in your relationship, you're stressed out. A lot of people use sexual intercourse as a stress reliever. So pissing off your partner could cause your partner to go sleep with somebody that's not going to piss them off as a stress reliever. What you're missing in your relationship, whether it's peace, love, affection, validation, confirmation, you will find it outside of your relationship. And when you find it, that will lead to an affair. However, once you and your partner start communicating about what's missing in the relationship, because you do value the marriage, you're just sick of her shit right now, you will find yourself dropping the side chick, going to couples therapy, and working out your marriage with your partner. So if she cheats and she ain't pregnant, you're likely to work that shit out. But if she cheats and that's his baby, you're probably not going to be able to tolerate that. But if you cheated and she cheated too, it's not like you're going to drop her when she cheated on you because you cheated on her. And usually, while men are inconsiderate and women are selfish, women don't pay attention to men's needs. Men don't pay attention to women's wants. Women only focus on what they want. Men only pay attention to what they have to do. And between the two of them, nobody's looking at the other person, but men will ask women, what do you want? What do you need? And what can I do for you? And those are three things that women will never ask a man, which requires a man to go and tell a woman, I need you to do this. I want you to do that. You must go and do this over here. Women don't want to be told what to do, but you could minimize being directed if you offer help. And offering help is not you doing what you did for your last 5 boyfriends. Offering help is go find out what is not getting done from your man, so that he can tell you what's missing, and you go do that. Because you might date 30 dudes and 25 of them can be satisfied the same way, but 5 of them are still going to be different. So if other men would be satisfied with that, that doesn't mean that I will be satisfied with that. What I needed you to do, you didn't do. What you wanted to do didn't satisfy me, because that's not what I needed you to do. And take me as I am, and you better be grateful if I do, is not the type of mentality of a self-sufficient woman that is willing to be a partner. That is the mentality of a self-sacrificing woman that is willing to be Miss Independent in a relationship and sacrifice her relationship for her own independence. And the feminist movement is going to continue to further push these women into a position of fundamentally being single, because they're not supporting partnership. He said, I don't care if Holly Berry in her prime tries to throw it, I would never cheat. If an affair happens, that ends it. Well, in order for you to prioritize that mentality, you would have to have at least bi-weekly communication with your partner to make sure that not just she is satisfied in the relationship, that you are satisfied in the relationship. You would have to notate the things that you feel are missing out of your side of the relationship, which you are not getting from her. And then she would have to show you that she is going to provide what you are missing. I've covered this on quite a few shows as well, because just doing for her is not going to cover you. You as a man have to be able to articulate to her that you are feeling ignored, left out, invalid. And if she devalues you and says that you're being insecure, stop being a little bitch, stop getting your panties in a twist, you're going to have to break up with her, because she doesn't care about your feelings. She doesn't respect you, because a lot of the times, unfortunately, vulnerability comes with insecurity. I don't like the way you and this guy are getting too close together. That can be insecurity. But being vulnerable about telling you that I don't feel comfortable with you talking to him, you should cut that shit out. I shouldn't have to come back and say it a second time. Oh, but he my best friend. We've been friends since way back when. And it turns out they've been friends since way back when. He dicked her down at one time in 1996. No. If that's your ex and your ex is your best friend, I need to go somewhere else. So if you're going to put yourself in a position where you're not going to cheat ever, your standards are going to be higher than a man that doesn't mind cheating. Because if you settle for less than your expectations, you will walk into a relationship unsatisfied, where you will get sexual gratification from your partner, but you are otherwise disappointed in her. When the sex stops being important, typically 35, 40, 45 years old, 50, all of the things you don't like about her will shine through. When she stops putting out about 3 months into the relationship, making you become a monk for 6 months, all of the things you don't like about her will shine through. In that moment, you have just realized all of what you've invested into the sex is not what you wanted from outside of the bedroom. Single women are attracted to men that have girlfriends and wives because women identify good men as men that are taken. Women also want what they can't have. A woman that sees a good man being mistreated by his woman will give that man the attention that his woman doesn't give. And no matter what any man says, that scenario leads to an affair. Because for the first time, you're feeling seen. For the first time, you're feeling appreciated. For the first time in a long time, you're feeling valued. And you're not going to control what you do in that moment. So early on in your relationship, if she talking back, shut it down, get rid of her. That's two different choices, not a series of actions. Either shut it down or get rid of her. If she's not willing to communicate, you either get that communication or get rid of her. If she's not willing to compromise, you either get that compromise or get rid of her. You need to know before you get to these contracts, you need to know that she's a long haul kind of woman. You need to know right after that honeymoon phase that she's really going to do what you need done. You need to know during the honeymoon phase that she's going to do what you need done, because most good men are going to bow down and cow tip and take their balls and put it into her purse so that she feels comfortable. Women's insecurity is never talked about, but a woman's insecurity is so deep that she has to remodel the whole house of the man to make it look like that's her house, so that any woman that walks into that house knows that she done pissed on every corner of the house. So that woman knows that another woman is here. But the identity of the man is pushed into the garage, because who gives a fuck? He's gonna be here, but this is her kingdom. That's the deep levels of insecurity that women have. But with a man, it's like, don't fuck with my car. That's it. Which is in a parking space. Like, the rest of the house is not even mine anymore. Right? But it took me 3/4 of my life to get. So it could be Beyonce when she made that Bootylicious song. It could be Nicki Minaj before she got all them surgeries. It could have been Lil Kim before she got into the Guinness Book of Records for swallowing 100 dicks. It don't matter who it is. It could be Selena Gomez before Justin Bieber. It don't matter who it is. If she catch you when you're feeling unappreciated, unvalued, you're gonna cheat. And if it's the woman that you wish you had, you're gonna cheat even faster. So you're saying no because you're single. Shit. I tell you what, remember when you was working with that boss that was being an asshole and you were talking about quitting your job? You got the cool supervisor working right now. That's why you were able to listen to me while you at work. The boss that was being the asshole, if that was a relationship, you would have been talking about cheating. Quitting your job and going to get another job somewhere else is just like saying, fuck this bitch, I'm going to go get another bitch on the other side of the block. Your normal mentality is that I don't like the way I'm being treated in this current situation. I am going to find better somewhere else. But most men don't leave the woman they have before they find a new woman. The same way we don't sell our car before we buy another one. We do not leave our current girlfriend before we find a new one. Women do the same thing. But women emotionally detach from their men 3, 6, 9 months before they leave a man. Women be on the hunt for a new man and treating you like shit in the house. When she find that new man and the relationships develops enough where she can move into his house, she would have been then took all of her shit out of your house and put it into his house. She got a dude toting her stuff out of your house, and that's the new boyfriend. You think that's a fucking moving crew? No, that's the new boyfriend and his homeboy moving her shit out of your house. This is how people operate on both sides of the fence. And you'll come to notice this. If you think about your last relationship, y'all probably wasn't getting none for the last 3 to 6 months of your relationship because she emotionally removed herself from the relationship. She physically removed herself from the relationship, from sexual contact with you for the last 3 to 6 months of your last relationship. And then when she was done with the bullshit, she walked out the door. Look, he could catch these hands. But see, you're not gonna know that because if 2-3 dudes in a U-Haul truck show up, you're gonna assume that's her moving crew. You're gonna assume there's folks that she knows that's gonna help her move. But 9 times out of 10, one of them dudes is a dude that she's sleeping with. You date a chick that don't got a car and a man come and pick her up, that dude is fucking. It don't matter what she tell you, she is not getting free rides from him unless he's getting free ass. Don't believe anything other than that. So your female walk out of your house and get into another man's car, he should not bring her back to your house unless that was an Uber. If it wasn't an Uber or a Lyft or a yellow taxi cab, if it's just a quote unquote friend, bro, she cheat with the car that just pulled up. Straight up. We got to pay attention to these things. Because if we're not paying attention to these things, we will allow ourselves to be taken advantage of. But at the end of the day, why fight a dude and go to jail or potentially get sued for breaking his face for a woman that don't even want us? As a man, we are supposed to be prioritizing the characteristics of the woman. If we stop chasing sex and start chasing her characteristics, her personality, her decision-making skills, we will know if we've got the right woman for us. If we're just getting her because she got a nice body and she's willing to put out, a nice body that's willing to put out could be using us for our stuff. A nice body that's willing to put out could be using us for a place to stay. A nice body that's willing to put out could have 5 other guys that she's doing the exact same thing to. Why do you think their body count gets so high so fast? Because they can sleep with 3 or 4 dudes in the same day and make the rent. And none of them dudes know that each one of them is smashing the same chick in the same day. We are not, this ain't Players Club. We ain't out there trying to smash 5 girls in the same day. If we can get 3 girls in a week, we call ourselves champions, right? We got game if we can pick up a different girl every night. But all she got to do is not say no. She get dick down and she get money and she get stuff and she get a car and she get multiple houses. All she got to do is not say no. We've got to negotiate. So if we've got to negotiate, the mentality is if she told him yes, fuck, that's high five, bro. You got it. Let me help you get this shit out of my fucking house. Don't touch that. I got it on contract. And she gets the kids to love her more than me. Yep, that's how the women are doing it right now. That's how the women are doing it right now. And they will alienate you. They'll talk bad about the men. They will make the children hate the men. And then the children are rolling up being these demons that are out there right now, like them kids that shot up that car and killed that woman. Left her baby without a mama. Them children grew up in a single family household with just the mama. All of these crazy people out here crashing cars and road rage and all of this stuff over the last 55 or 65 years, single mothers, not single fathers, have run 82% of separations. Only 18% of men, them YNs, yes, them YNs, 18% of men have access to their children after separation or divorce. 82% of separations and divorces lead to the children growing up with the women. So all of the young adults that are causing chaos in our cities is because of the 82% of women that was raising the young men, that was raising the young women. The girls that's dropping us like it's hot and twerking all up in the street and wearing clothes that's exposing all of their personal goodies. Raised by the 82% women. The culture that we don't like is the product of the upbringing from 82% of the single women. Women ain't gotta like that, but you show me a man that was raised by a man that is acting like the men that you don't like. You show me a woman that was raised by her father that's acting like the hoes that we don't want to marry. You don't find it. I'm not saying the men do raise the children better than the women, but the children need both the mom and the dad. But if the children only got the mom raises children from psychological and emotional manipulation. Men raise the children with logic and reason. If you do this, I'll do that. If you want that, you must do this. If that, then logic and reason. I'm not letting you do that because. Mom is going to say, do it because I say so. Don't break your mother's heart. Oh, I'm going to die because you're doing X, Y, and Z. Psychological and emotional manipulation. Don't piss me off. All of these excuses. So you're not doing it because it's right or wrong. You're not doing it because you don't want mom to get mad. You don't want mom to cry. You don't want to break mom's heart. There's no logic behind that. So these boys out here, so that's gonna have these little YNs out there running on emotion. You hurt my feelings, I'm gonna put a Glock switch. Logic dictates that if you focused on me, then I'm on your mind. But that means I'm doing a good job while I'm on my grind. It don't matter if you're talking shit about me. When we get off the podcast, I'd have been on here 4 hours. If we get off the podcast and you talking shit about me after I get off the podcast, that means I stuck with you. People who come through and troll me and come back with a different account and troll me again, I stuck with them. After I done blocked them, they came back with a different account and they stuck with them. You got the females that talk shit about me after they thumbs down when I talk about the truth, and I'm like, I still got ratings. I stuck with you. You know what I mean? I'm doing something right if you can remember this show after the show is over. You can swipe on it, but they're going to get tired of swiping because when you scroll through YouTube, I'm at the top and the bottom of the For You page. So every time you see me, you done already, I'm still here. And you done crossed me again because, like I said, I stuck with you. And not too many. I done been on YouTube, scrolling through YouTube, and not too many live podcasts doing what I'm doing. Not like this. And the goal is that I stick with you. 10, 20 years from now, we should all not be broke. We should all have our shit together. We should be making better decisions. We should be screening people better. Instead of looking at that girl like, ooh, she fine, and thinking about going over there and talking to her, you need to be judging. They said, thou shalt not judge in the church. You need to be judging in these streets, bro. You need to be judging in these streets. Would I want my daughter to be like that? If no, I'm not talking to her. Do I want the mother of my children to look like that? If no, I should not talk to her. If yes, go over there and go see what's up. But the first thing you're trying to find out is not, can I take you somewhere? It's, let me see some value. What I said 3 hours ago. One of the easiest questions females be asking a man, what's your name and what kind of occupation you have? But what did I say? Do you have your financial portfolio track? Do you have a budget outline? Do you have, the stuff that we're talking about today? Do you have a financial portfolio detailed and documented that you monitor? I don't give a fuck how much money you make, but do you see where your money is going? Are you financially responsible? There's certain questions that you can ask, and it doesn't matter if you're making 20,000 or 100,000. If you're not paying attention to where your money is going, I mean, if I got hooked up with you, you would not be paying attention to where my money is going neither. And that likely means that I'm going to be wasting money on your ass. And I don't want to do that. So it's not just about how much her hair costs, how much her nails cost, how much the fake eyelashes cost. What matters is, are you able to make financially responsible decisions? So a lot of us fellas that go out there and talk to these females right now, oh, she cute, she bubbly. Bubbly means stupid. She don't got common sense. God gave a Betsy bug, but because she cute with her little poppy eyes and she'll let me do something strange for a piece of change that I could go and hit it. That mentality also means that she will take that green gas pump and put it into the back of your damn Tesla and pump gas into your Tesla and fuck up your damn car. That's what that means. I don't want a stupid woman. I want a woman that got some damn sense. But I also don't want an egotistical educational woman where she thinks that because she got a degree that she's smarter than me. At the end of the day, you're supposed to be smart, but you're supposed to be smart enough to communicate. If you're going to throw your degree in the air, you better tell me that you didn't come out of debate class, that you came out of 5 different levels of highly communication classes. I need to see some communication 404 off of your damn diploma. Because if you got 3 degrees and you came out of psychology analyzing how that made me feel, but not giving a fuck about what I said, we're not going to work out. You're going to psychoanalyze what I told you to do. Oh, he's insecure because he told me to bring the car back with gas in it. No, I'm not insecure. I'm tired of having to go to the gas station so I can get to work. Taking 20 minutes to put gas in the car, I'm going to be late for work. You put gas in it before you come back or you don't leave with it. That's how we work that shit out. So exactly. When you're doing these things, when you're preparing and you're planning and you're starting off with your non-negotiables from day one, you're building a foundation that will support a life that both of you want. And it's easy for you to do when you're finding the right person. You are a team. And now it is time for you guys to start acting like a team. Because if y'all are fighting one another in the house, y'all aren't working together. 2 against the middle is how it's done when we was kids. Put mom against dad, and whoever wins is going to give me a yes. But that don't work when you grown. If y'all can't work together, it's supposed to be us against the world, Bonnie and Clyde, Ja Rule and Sierra. We are not supposed to be in a situation where I got to Mike Tyson punch you out so that I can go and take care of the bills. In these situations, I got the wrong partner. We got to be working together as a team. Now, as I told y'all earlier in the show, to help y'all start step 1, I created a lot of these templates, and they're accessible through the membership. Once you go into the membership, you talk to me through the membership, you can calculate your survival numbers. You can get the information to get your full budget plan together, and then get access to the girlfriend contract, where you have a list of stipulations that is highly modifiable that you can add to in order for you to articulate to your partner the things that you expect out of y'all coming together. In future shows, I'm going to be talking to you guys about how to navigate money on the first date, or how to navigate money discussions on the first date and the first few dates, because I've also talked about that in the past before, but I want to talk about it again, because when we're dialing back into the finance side of relationships, as soon as you're capable of talking about finances, y'all need to be talking about finances, not so much about how much do you make versus how much do I make, but how the fuck do you spend money, plan on spending money? Do you have trade skills versus my trade skills? Do you know what a damn Bitcoin is? You know what I mean? You've got to have a skill set that is designed for financial success, not just emotional success. Because if your emotional success does not make us financially successful. The only way that we will be successful together is if you're obedient to my instructions while I drive by myself to our financial success. And for women who do not want to follow instructions, you need to follow a woman that, or find a woman that is willing to co-pilot your ship in the same direction that you planned on going in the first place. Because if you have to deviate from your destination because you're in a relationship, your 20-year goal has been terminated. You do not want to get into a relationship where your future has now been destroyed so that you can prioritize her future. Her future should be your future. His future should be your future. So y'all are supposed to be paying attention to what's your 20-year plan. And if they don't fucking know what their 20-year plan is, then that's not the right person for you. At the top of the list, if you don't have a person that knows what their 20-year plan is, then that's not the right person for you. The only half-ass response that you can get is from the Philippines, because what her 20-year plan is to spend the next 20 years making you happy, that's good enough for me. Because that means that at the beginning of the week and at the end of the day, that you will do what I tell you to do when I tell you to do it, and whatever else needs to be done, you got it. Now, we've been running some long shows. We've been running some long shows. I'm going to start by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep telling y'all ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, I give y'all this information to help y'all become higher value men, because if you find the things in your life that you can control, then I will allow you, or you will be able to allow yourselves to make the changes that you need to change, and then navigate around the things that you cannot change. Because I was thinking about something else just a moment ago, because your future is only going to get better tomorrow if you are preparing for it today. You got to make your later greater. So you can't live life in the moment, because the moment has passed. Every moment of the day, that moment has passed. But next year will be just as hard as last year if you don't start doing stuff this year to make next year better. Ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective, good night, horse. You too can take this information and make yourselves higher value women, but y'all have to find your 20-year plan, start finding what you need to do, and start prioritizing that, and be open-minded to the partners that cross your path. But when you interview these individuals, since they're talking to you about first dates and getting in your pants, you need to be interviewing them about their goals and their ambitions in life, and find out what their 20-year plan is. Because if their 20-year plan doesn't line up with your 20-year plan, you don't got the time to go on a first date with them, because that's deviating you from your 20-year plan. The money you spending on makeup and dresses and all of this, that, and the other to look pretty for him for one night, that money could have been spent towards your 20-year plan. The same way a man wasting his money on taking you on a first date is the same way you waste your time going with him on a first date. Before you agree to the first date, you need to find out if he's got the mentality for you to want to date him. You're looking for characteristics, drive, ambition, potential. You're not looking for how much money he can spend in the night. You're not looking for how deep his pockets are, because your end goal is not to have a man that's willing to waste $500 on a stranger. Your end goal is to have a man that's willing to invest $5,000 on assets that will allow you to get $500,000 worth of profits, so that y'all can buy houses and cars that y'all own, so that y'all can retire out of the game, so that before you reach retirement age, that you can quit your job and not have to work until you're 95. And retirement age is about between 65 and 69 years old. So if you're in your 40s and you want to do 25 more years, so by the time you reach 65, that you're able to quit your job, your goal is to quit your job and not be on Social Security disability. That's your goal in life. And what do you got to do to get there? Your standard of living is $50,000 a year. That's what you want your standard of living to be at. That's your base stuff, not your life of luxury. If that's what you wanted to be at, you know that you're probably going to need closer to $500,000 to $700,000, because it depends. If you're doing 10% return on your investments, 50% of $500,000 is $50,000 a year. That's 10%. So you're going to have $500,000 in your brokerage account to get $50,000 a year. And if you're trying to get that $50,000 a year after taxes, you're probably going to have to do 15% so that 5% can get taken out for taxation. If you're trying to live a $75,000 a year lifestyle off of that same 10 to 15%, you're probably going to need close to $750,000 in your brokerage account. so that you can then take the other $25,000 and travel the world and have all your bills paid in America. If that's what the kind of life you want to live when you're 69, 70 years old, you have to start putting money aside to get there. You have to see how much it costs to get to the end goal, and then you have to turn that to installment plan. The same way they take your $300,000 house and turn it into a 30-year mortgage and give you monthly payments until in 30 years that house will be paid off. That same way, you need to take that installment plan. If you need to put 20 grand a year aside in order to reach your goal, you need to be able to make an extra 20 grand a year that you can put aside to reach your goal. And every dress, every pair of heels, every chapstick, every bag of weave that cuts down on your $20,000 cuts into your end goal. And you need to ask yourself, do I really need to do that, or can I finally rock natural, since I lie to everybody and say that I love my natural look and I just like to switch it up, but I have never worn my natural look? Give me 2 years of you being natural. So prove what you say. Prove what you say. Because you can save a shit ton of money with that damn Brazilian weave costing $800 for bundles, plus the bitch that got to put it in your scalp. You can save so much money just by not buying hair, because you got beautiful hair on top of your head. You just can't nobody see it. So with that being said, thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night.
Chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting down upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command.